Chapter 584. Wazile. Pan-toad. In the jungle of Tsonglin Valley came the unknown sounds of armor demons. Humans could not understand the sounds of armor demons. Even many advanced demons could not understand the sounds of armor demons. After all, this kind of fierce beast was a real monster hatched from worm nests. Their innate language could not be easily understood by other races. In the east of a cliff covered with moss, dense armor demons were chopping trees with blunt weapons. As a result, trees were chopped off one after another and fell down. In the bamboo woods not far away, many armor demons were chopping bamboo woods. These bamboos had been growing in the deep mountains for many years. The diameter of the bamboo pipes was almost 30 centimeters thick and very tough. Pan-toad. An armored demon wearing the emblem of Chiliarch raised his spear and exclaimed loudly as he stepped forward and kicked the butt of a slower armored demon. That armored demon fell to the ground as he turned around and roared furiously. Unexpectedly, the Chiliarch also opened his bloody mouth and roared, releasing a strong bloody smell. In a split second, that young armored demon was scared out of his wits and dared not resist anymore. It seemed that in the world of armored demons, the one with the louder voice was the most powerful one. What a bunch of idiots. On a rock dozens of meters away, Qianfeng was supervising the work with a group of high-level demons. On one side, Lei Chong was also standing with some captaincy-level armor demons with his battle hammer. After hearing Qianfeng's words, Lei Chong was a bit displeased. He turned around and said in a non-standard language of Broken Cauldron Realm, "Marshal Qianfeng, armor demons are working very hard. Don't tease them anymore. Don't forget that the Armor Demon Corps is the forerunner of the God Clan's attack. If we unify the continent, the Armor Demon Corps will make a great contribution." Smiling, Qianfeng cupped his fists and said, "I'm sorry, General Lei Chong. I didn't mean to disrespect you. However, the intelligence of the armor demons is indeed very low. There are very few generals like General Lei Chong who are good at both the pen and the sword." Lei Chong felt embarrassed to be angry. He said in a hoarse voice, "Marshal, can you tell me why you ordered the soldiers to cut down the woods? His Majesty has ordered us to fight the enemies side by side. You shouldn't hide it from me." Well, Qianfeng thought for a moment and said, "The giant trees on the east side of Tsonglin Valley are all over 100 years old. They are tens of meters long and are extremely sturdy. I plan to use these giant trees to avoid the traps dug by the humans. After all, the humans are too cunning. There is no way they wouldn't set up an ambush along our route." "What about the bamboo?" I haven't thought about it yet. If Marshal Lei Chong is free, please dispatch another armored demon army to collect the weeds in the valley for me. I need them." Lei Chong was confused. "Marshal, I can understand using trees to block the humans' traps, but what's the use of weeds? Do you think we can use weeds to destroy the Empire's army?" Qianfeng groaned inwardly. He didn't want to reveal military secrets, but Lei Chong's status was too high. He had to find a way to fool him. So he smiled and said, "Recently, some armor demons have become vegetarians. They don't eat meat, they eat grass. I'll do it right away." Lei Chong felt relieved. He turned around and walked only a few steps before he felt that something was wrong. However, he simply ignored it. Before leaving, the versatile demon emperor had ordered him to fight side by side with Qianfeng this time. He only needed to be the vanguard and should not intervene in the strategy. In fact, Lei Chong despised Qianfeng, who was full of evil tricks, very much. He thought that Qianfeng was so bad that he didn't deserve to be a member of the Protoss. Therefore, in the valley on the east side of Tsonglin Valley, tens of thousands of armor demons worked in full swing. The trees and bamboo groves were razed to the ground in a blink of an eye. The branches and leaves of the giant trees were cut off and piled up in the demon camp. All the bamboos were sent to the camp of the advanced demons for processing. In the blink of an eye, it was already afternoon. The warm sun of early spring shone on the earth, giving people a sense of laziness. As a result, many patrolling soldiers outside the imperial camp fell asleep on the rocks with their spears in their arms. They were too tired. Many of them had run all the way from Lanyan City to Tsonglin Valley on their own feet. They were already exhausted. Outside the central tent, a group of soldiers stood guard. There were people from the Valiant Dragon Army, the Steel Blade Army, and the Godmight Battalion. Inside the tent, purple smoke slowly rose from the incense burner and lingered in the tent for a long time. Beside the huge sand table, Lin Muyu and Xianxia stood facing each other, while Su Muyun, Zhen Yifan, and the other veteran generals sat at the side. Empress Qin Yin was dressed in a well-ironed female military uniform of the Empire with a golden cloak behind her. She looked at the crowd and said, "It's been 3 days, and there hasn't been any movement from the demons. What are they thinking?" "It's not that there hasn't been any movement," Lin Muyu replied. "Oh." Lin Muyu pointed to the east side of Songlin Valley on the map and said, "The spies of the Longdan army camp have obtained the latest military intelligence. Lei Chong and Qianfeng are leading the Armor Demon Legion to cut down the forest in this location." "Cutting down the forest?" Xianxia frowned and said, "They must be crazy. Why are they cutting down the forest? Don't tell me they want to build a complete camp in Songlin Valley? I don't think so." Lin Muyu smiled and said, "Qianfeng never does meaningless things, and it's the same this time. In addition, we also found out that the demons are collecting bamboo and weeds." "Bamboo and weeds?" Zheng Yifan frowned and said, "What does Qianfeng want to do with bamboo and weeds?" "I don't know." Lin Muyu shook her head and said, "This time, I really can't guess Qianfeng's thoughts. Perhaps Qianfeng plans to use trees, bamboo, and weeds to win by surprise?" Zheng Yifan narrowed his eyes and said, "Whether it's trees, bamboo, or weeds, they are all flammable things. In that case, as the vanguard, Lord Xianxia should prepare more materials to ignite the fire. In addition, provide the soldiers with water to extinguish the fire, and be ready to attack with fire at any time to deal with Qianfeng's strategy." Xianxia nodded and said, "Yes, thank you for your advice." Qin Yin said, "When do you think the demons will attack?" Xianxia smiled and said, "Songlin Valley has already gathered nearly 200,000 demon troops. Among them, the armor demons are the main force. The rest of the 300,000 troops are mostly distributed in the east of Tsangnan Province and Lingdong Province. It seems that Qianfeng only plans to use 200,000 troops to fight us. As soon as they are prepared, the war will begin." Su Muyun said with the spear in his hand, "The armor demons are brave and can fight against 10. Even if they only have 200,000 troops, they can easily defeat our 300,000 troops in a field battle. Of course, the premise is that we don't use any tricks." Qin Yin smiled and said, "Grandfather, do you have any plans?" Su Muyun shook his head and said, "My only hope is that Qin Yi will really send out his troops. The Iha nation's army will leave Sword Pavilion and attack the demons' rear. This way, no matter how strong the demons are, they will definitely suffer heavy losses." "Yes, grandfather is right." Qin Yin nodded and said, "I also hope so, but this hope is too slim. How could Qin Yi, that old fox, let his trump card troops participate in this unnecessary war?" At the side, Xianxia cupped his fists and said, "Your Highness, please rest assured. This subordinate will definitely defend the position well. No matter how strong the demons are, we will not give in an inch." "Marquis Pingnan has worked hard." Sidusan could not help but laugh and said in a low voice, "It's a pity that Xiangyu's title is Marquis Pingnan and not Marquis Anong. Otherwise, we might really be able to win this war." Lin Muyu glared at him, indicating that he should not speak carelessly. After the afternoon meeting was dismissed, Lin Muyu returned to her camp. Wei Chou, Sidu Sen, Sidu Shui, and Fengxi followed her in. "Lord Commander." Wei Chou cupped his fists and said, "According to my observations, the demon clan's camp has already accumulated a large number of trees. These trees are dozens of meters long and should be used to fill the pit dug by Xianxia. The supplies are already sufficient, and the demon clan's large-scale attack will only take a day or two. We should make arrangements early. This is the reason why I called you all over." Lin Muyu spread out the map on the table and said, "The terrain outside of Songlin Valley is very rugged and not conducive to retreat. Wei Chou, you have brought people to investigate. Does this terrain have a name?" "There is no name." This valley is mostly made up of rocks and there is little soil. It is impossible to grow crops, so the locals do not come here at all. At most, it is a few hunters who come here to hunt. Why has the commander taken a fancy to this land? Yes. Lin Muyu smiled slightly. There are two ways to retreat from Songlin Valley. One is the main road, going straight to the Unicorn Forest, and the other is this unknown valley. Wei Chou, you make the arrangements. You must set up our 100 magic crystal cannons on both sides of this valley within 3 days. On the other hand, Sidu Shui, who was standing to the side, was taken aback for a moment, her beautiful eyes filled with doubt. Commander, this valley is at least 20 kilometers away from the Songlin Valley. If we set up the magic crystal cannons here, may I ask what use they have? Sidusun took a deep breath and said, Commander, do you think Xiang Yu, Su Long, Luo Exin, and the others will be defeated? I don't know. Lin Muyu shook her head, but the task of the Longdan army camp this time is to bring up the rear. I must be fully prepared. Set up all our magic crystal cannons here. Once the Imperial army is defeated, someone must be here to stop the iron hooves of the Armor Demon Legion. Yes. Wei Chao's eyes were burning like flames. He said with a smile, I believe in Commander on the strategic matters. Lin Muyu took a deep breath and said, Wei Chou, come closer. There is one more thing I want to tell you in secret. Yes, madam. Wei Chou moved forward, and after Lin Muyu whispered a few words in his ear, Wei Chao's face suddenly became livid, and then filled with excitement and joy. He cupped his fist and said, Don't worry, madam. This subordinate will definitely do a good job. All right. Lin Muyu said with a smile, Wei Chou, go secretly deploy the magic crystal cannons. General Shui, go prepare the cavalry regiment of the Longdan army camp. Sidusun Fengshi, you two control the 50,000 elites of the Longdan army camp. Set up the camp here, and wait for the demons to attack. Put. The knuckles of her index finger heavily tapped on the map on the table. Chapter 585. On the 3rd of February, Songlin Valley was shrouded in thick fog. There was no wind this morning and the fog floated in the valley like clouds. One could only see 20 meters away. Damn it, how are we going to fight in such a thick fog? At the front of Xiang Yu's army, a centurion of the Tang family grumbled as he sat on the mud wall. Don't be impatient. The veteran at the side twisted the cork of the water bottle and drank a mouthful of strong alcohol. We can't see it, and neither can the demon race. The centurion furrowed his brows. I am the army of the Seven Seas Cities Tang clan. Why should we be on the front lines? Everyone knows that once the demons attack, we will immediately be crushed into meat paste. No matter the outcome of this battle, we are destined to die. Old donkey, why aren't you panicking? Panicking? What's there to be afraid of? What's more, what haven't I experienced in my life? I was a mercenary before the age of 30 and roamed freely. After that, I joined the army and fought with the Tang army. I drank the strong liquor of Lingdong, killed the barbarians of the south, and slept with the women of the northern desert. My life has long been worth it. Now that I'm dying here, I can earn the name of a hero of the empire. Who knows, maybe the prostitutes that I've slept with in some tavern will see my name on the nation-guarding monument and never forget it for the rest of their lives. F***CK, the centurion was furious. You wily old fox, I knew I couldn't talk to you too much. Otherwise, your skin will get thicker and thicker. Old donkey chuckled. General, did you see the fog this morning? What's so interesting about fog? Sai, you might not know this, but fog is also a form of knowledge. Look, the fog this morning is flowing and not in patches, but in patches. This means that there must be a huge commotion in the distance. This fog is called ominous fog. I think nothing good will happen this morning. If the demon race doesn't attack, there will most likely be a spiritual beast attack. Pumph, you old fart. Scram to the side and drink. Don't disturb this daddy's defense. Old Donkey Head laughed heartily as he carried his water bag and walked to the side of the 2-meter-tall wall. He looked into the dense fog in the distance and laughed with hazy eyes. He raised his head and continued to drink. The strong alcohol flowed down his throat, but just as he was enjoying this kind of happiness, he suddenly felt a chill at the back of his neck. Then he lost consciousness. Pucci! A giant iron spear pierced through Old Donkey Head's neck and stabbed him into the wall. Even his neck was twisted and his head was about to fall off. It was a tragic death. God damn it! The centurion's face was filled with anger. Sound the drums, the demons are coming. Roar, roar, roar. The roars of the armor demons could be heard from within the dense fog. Giant black shadows appeared one after another. Groups of armor demons were covered in armor and carried huge steel shields. Their faces were filled with killing intent. What was even more shocking was that behind the first line of armor demons was a group of armor demons carrying trees. 5 to 10 armor demons were carrying tree trunks that were dozens of meters long as they charged over. Release the arrows. The centurion's eyes were already bloodshot. At this moment, he was incomparably afraid. He knew that they couldn't win this battle no matter what. The armor demons had come prepared, so the traps at the back were definitely useless. Roar! An armor demon leaped over and swung its battle axe in the air, sending the head of a 10-man squad leader flying along with his helmet. Blood splattered everywhere. Everyone was dumbfounded. This time, everyone realized that not only did the demons have a shocking number, but the quality of their weapons and defensive equipment had also increased by a large margin. Behind the earth wall, the soldiers rapidly released arrows, but it was completely useless. The armor demons in the front row raised their shields high and blocked the arrows one after another. When they got close, they swung their swords and chopped down. How could the strength of ordinary soldiers resist the armor demons? In the blink of an eye, the first line of defense was directly broken through. The earth wall was smashed through by the armor demons one after another. It's over. General, what should we do? A corporal turned around and looked at the centurion with an ashen face. What else can we do? The centurion stared at him, but he saw an armor demon rushing over from behind the corporal. With a "piu" sound, the long spear pierced through the corporal's heart and sent his body flying. A pair of dark brown eyes glared at the centurion and roared angrily, "Gangba!" The centurion was scared out of his wits. He hurriedly pulled the reins of his warhorse and turned to leave. Whoosh! Behind him, the sound of a long spear piercing through the air could be heard. When the centurion turned around, he saw the last scene before his death. The long spear pierced through his abdomen and directly threw him off the horse's back. It was extremely tragic. Dong, dong, dong. The sound of war drums came from the fog, but no one could see clearly. They could only hurriedly pick up their weapons to resist the enemies in the fog. Avoid the traps. Avoid the traps. A messenger with a purple flag on his back rode through the crowd on his horse and ordered loudly, "Pass the Marquis's military order, hold the position, avoid the traps, and lead the demons into the traps." At this time, everyone had calmed down a little, but the continuous screams of the human soldiers in the fog in the distance were too frightening. This calmness was replaced by fear in the blink of an eye. Behind the trap formation, through the fog and clouds, the main force of Xiangyu's army had been lined up in a neat formation. The shield-bearers and spear-bearers were crisscrossing in defense. Behind them were densely packed arrow boxes, ballistae, and archers. Further behind them was the heaven and earth battle formation of 50,000 soldiers formed by Xiangyu. The ground was covered with flags, looking very dignified. Under the commander's flag on the west side of the heaven and earth battle formation, Qin Yin, Lin Muyu, Xiangyu, and others were riding on warhorses. However, they couldn't see the battle in the distance and could only worry. Can the 5-mile trap really stop the armor demons of the demon clan? Sulong asked. No. Narrowing his eyes, Xiangyu shook his head and said, but it can dampen the spirits of the demons. Qin Yin's spiritual mind was very sharp. She could faintly hear the desperate screams of the soldiers of the Empire before they died in the distance. She felt very uncomfortable, but this was war and everything she had to face. Soon after, a messenger galloped over and cupped his hands, saying, "Marquis, the armor demons are using the long giant trees to push forward and use the giant trees as bridges over the traps. They are already halfway into the traps." Is that really the case? Xianxia clenched his fists and said, "It seems that this is indeed a bloody battle. We can only see the outcome of the battle in terms of position." Beside him, Zhen Yifan was stunned and said, "Didn't Marquis Pingnan pour black beech oil into the traps? If he poured black beech oil and launched it with fire arrows, the front position would immediately turn into a sea of fire. No matter how many armor demons came, they would all die." Xianxia shook his head. "There are only swords in the traps, not black beech oil." Zhen Yifan was so angry that his face turned pale. He knew that Xianxia was well versed in the art of war. If he didn't pour black beech oil, it could only be because he didn't want to use this method to stop the demons. Hearing this, Lin Muyu frowned and asked, "I wonder how General Xianxia plans to repel the enemy?" "It's very simple." Xianxia pointed forward and said with a smile, "A large amount of black beech oil has been poured into the last trap. As long as the main force of the armor demons comes over, we will launch an attack and push all of them into the black beech oil. I've prepared 10,000 giant ballistae for the demons." Giant ballistae were a new type of weapon developed by the Department of War's Weapons Department. It was a type of weapon that could launch giant ballistae. Lin Muyu looked over carefully. Indeed, there were many giant ballistae in Xiangyu's battle formation. He had practically gathered all the ballistae in the army together. With the impact of the ballistae, even the armor demons would find it hard to withstand. If it was really like this, perhaps they could indeed win by a surprise move. Furthermore, with the misty weather today, the winged people in the air were similarly unable to see the situation in the human camp clearly. Perhaps Qian Feng would fall for it too. But right at this time, a sharp whistle suddenly came from the air. "What is it?" Lin Muyu hurriedly pulled out the stellar sword and looked up at the sky. Wei Chou, Situ Sen, and the rest also unsheathed their weapons one after another, while Qin Yen raised his spear and led a group of imperial guards to guard Qin Yin's surroundings. "It's the winged people," Wei Chou said loudly. "Get ready. Aim at the sky and fire 10,000 arrows at once." Su Muyun shouted in a low voice. "No!" Zhen Yifan waved his hand and said, "The winged people's cries are at least 500 meters away from us. This kind of distance can't harm them at all and will only throw them into confusion. Wait, let's see what the winged people are trying to do." Right at this time, there was a sudden buzz in the air. A black shadow descended from the sky and landed straight into Xiangyu's 50,000-man universe battle formation. Bam! Bamboo pieces and wild grass splattered everywhere. This pitch-black object actually contained an armor demon carrying a long saber. After stepping out of the protective circle, it roared angrily and stabbed the long saber into the chest of an Empire soldier. Blood splattered everywhere. It abruptly swung its weapon and split the soldier into two. The long saber rapidly slashed at several others. My God! Qin Yin's heart trembled as she watched. Now, she finally understood why Qian Feng chopped down the bamboo and collected the wild grass. He chopped down the bamboo to make bamboo cages, while the wild grass was used to fill the bamboo cages to reduce the impact of the armor demons landing. These armor demons were transported by the winged people army and dropped directly from the sky. This kind of tactic could only be used by the demon race. Swoosh, 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 countless armor demons fell from the sky like it was raining. Xiangyu soldiers were caught off guard, and many of them were directly crushed to death. Some of the armor demons that landed were injured, but their ferocity did not diminish. They waved their weapons and started killing indiscriminately in the crowd. Ludus! An armor demon roared angrily. Immediately, many armor demons dropped from the sky, charged straight at the giant ballista. Lin Muyu, Xiangyu, Luo Xian, and the others all felt a chill in their hearts. This was how terrifying Qian Feng was. It was not that he did not know Xiangyu's plan, but he knew that Xiangyu was waiting for him with the giant ballista, yet he still managed to win by a surprise move. Buzz! Another huge object fell from the sky. It was an extremely powerful armor demon. It stomped on the bamboo cage and smashed it in the air. The long spear in its hand pierced toward Qin Yin's head with a cold gleam. "Your Highness, be careful!" Qin Yen hurriedly shouted. Qin Yin looked up. Her beautiful face was filled with coldness. She opened her palm, and a golden ice crystal soared into the sky. Sky Dragon Crystal. Bam! Amidst a loud boom, the armor demon was directly reduced to pieces of flesh and blood in the air. Blood rained down and splattered on Qin Yin's battle armor. Everyone was stunned again. No one knew what level Qin Yin's cultivation had reached now. Chapter 586. Xianxia, are you not going to ignite the ebony oil in the last pit? Lin Muyu could not help but ask as she watched the armor demons falling like rain and the soldiers howling miserably. Xiangyu's face was very pale. He was already in a panic and asked, "Is there any use?" Qianfeng actually played such a trick. Goddamn Qianfeng, burning the ebony oil will be of no use now. Tens of thousands of armor demons will fall from the sky and tear apart our defense. T. Lin Muyu scolded angrily and said in a low voice, "Are you King stupid? The armor demons weigh at least 400 kilograms. A winged person can at most carry 15 kilograms. They need at least 10 winged person to airdrop one armor demon. The demon race only has 70,000 winged person in total. This time, they can airdrop less than 10,000 armor demons. Don't tell me your 100,000 men can't stop 10,000 armor demons? Fire quick." Xianxia was immediately enlightened by Lin Muyu's scolding. He hurriedly shouted in a low voice, "What are you waiting for, fire?" "Yes, but..." a Tang family captaincy said with a pale face, "But Marquis, we still have close to 50,000 brothers at the front. Once the fire is ignited, I'm afraid they won't be able to return." Xianxia hurriedly turned to look at Qin Yin with an extremely pained expression. "Your Highness, what should we do?" Lin Muyu said coldly, "The 50,000 men at the front have already been massacred. There are not many left. If we don't ignite the fire, they will all die for the country. But if we don't ignite the fire, the 200,000 armor demons of Qianfeng and Lei Chong will kill their way through the entire Songlin Valley. When that time comes, we will be waiting for the destruction of the country." Qin Yin gritted her teeth. "Fire!" In the sky, fire arrows were shot randomly. Not long after, the front was filled with flames. Armor demons that were charging forward fell into the fire pit, their cries soaring into the sky. Xianxia raised his spear and said, "Your Highness, I will personally go to battle." Pingnan, be careful." "Yes." Xianxia brandished his spear and shouted, "Brothers, follow me to fight." At this moment, the Qianquan battle formation had already been penetrated by Qianfeng's airdrop tactic. Therefore, the Qianquan battle formation could only be stabilized by the forceful impact of cavalries. At the same time, the greater part of those giant ballistae had also been destroyed. A large group of armor demons were covered with saber and sword scars. However, they were not killed. The sun rose, slowly dispersing the fog, greatly improving one's field of vision. In front of them was a chaotic battle, and the victor would not be decided in a short while. At this moment, a row of cavalrymen galloped over and respectfully reported to Zheng Yifan, "Marquis, something bad has happened. A large number of armor demons have appeared on the south side of Songlin Valley and are launching an attack on our right army." Zheng Yifan's entire body trembled, and his face became somewhat pale. He said, "Give the order to defend against the enemy. The Divine Might Battalion must block the demons for me no matter what." Not long after, another group of messengers galloped over. This time, they were reporting to Su Rong. "Commander, the demons have begun to attack our positions. What should we do?" "Defend against the enemy." Su Rong held his long saber and said, "Arrow boxes, ballistae, use everything that can be used. Even if the entire army is annihilated, we must block the demons' attack." "Commander Yu, why aren't you saying anything?" Zheng Yifan suddenly asked. Lin Muyu rode on the snow-treading warhorse and held the stellar sword in her hand. She smiled bitterly and said, "We're in a passive situation. What else can we say? Now, we can only hope that the front, left, and right armies can withstand the attack of the demon race." Su Rong looked at Lin Muyu with undisguised sarcasm in his eyes. He said, "Commander Yu's Longdan army camp is known as the Empire's strongest army. But in the end, where is the Longdan army camp now? Aren't our brothers fighting a bloody battle? Is that so? Lin Muyu looked at him coldly. Su Rong, remember this clearly. You are the Empire's commander. You are fighting for the Empire, not for me. Where were you when the Longdan army camp was fighting a bloody battle? Xing Yifan tried to smooth things over. All right, commanders, the Empire is in danger now. We should work together to protect the great Qin Empire from being lost. Qin Yi nodded. Yes, Wei Chou, Sidu Sen, Sidu Shui. Lin Muyu held the star's sword and said in a low voice, let's go. Bring the 1st Battalion's 2,000 soldiers and follow me. We are going to Su Rong's position to help defend against the enemy. Lin Muyu saluted Qin Yin and said, Xiao Yin, I am going to help. Be careful. Yes. Amidst the sound of hooves, Lin Muyu led the 2,000 elites of the Longdan army camp to leave the central army and went straight to the left army where Su Rong's position was. The position was located to the north of Songlin Valley. When Lin Muyu and the others arrived, it was already a chaotic battle. A large number of armor demons broke through the Muyu City Army's shield formation and were wantonly slaughtering the spear formation and bow formation. It's over, it's over. A chiliarch of Muyu City looked at the destroyed position and the countless soldiers who died tragically on the ground. He couldn't help but kneel on the ground with tears streaming down his face. He cried, The Empire is finished, the Empire is finished. A group of soldiers fought and retreated. Even more people had already begun to collapse. They picked up their weapons and ran away wantonly. The appearance of deserters meant that the entire position was about to be routed. Lin Muyu took the lead and rushed forward. She shouted, Where is the military governor? Why aren't you punishing the deserters? A fat officer's face was ashen. He was trembling in fear from the demon's attack. He said, Commander Yu, we really have no choice. Lei Chong, the god of death, personally led countless armor demons to attack our battle formation. We can't do anything. None of the people who died had a complete corpse. Execute the military law immediately. Anyone who deserts will be executed. Yes, Lin Muyu raised the stellar sword and said in a low voice, Longdan army camp, follow me. Bring back the morale. A group of people swept past like a gust of wind. The forest ground was not suitable for cavalry. Lin Muyu and the others all dismounted and carried their weapons as they rushed forward on foot. As expected, the situation in front of them was very chaotic. The Muyu City army had already been divided into small groups and were being quickly devoured by the demons. At this rate, perhaps Su Rong's 100,000 men would be killed in less than a day. Go! Lin Muyu used the fallen star steps and rushed forward like lightning. She waved her sword and shot through a group of armor demons like a bolt of lightning. Everywhere she passed, the armor demons fell to the ground. Just like the humans who had been killed, none of their bodies were intact. Most of them were beheaded by Lin Muyu. The golden light of the god-binding chains surrounded the stellar sword, making it even more indestructible. It could even cut the thick shields held by the armor demons into two. The Holy King realm opened up, shocking the group of armor demons to the point that they couldn't move at all. A group of armor demons also noticed the arrival of Lin Muyu, a fierce general. They immediately raised their weapons and greeted her. At least 50 armor demons attacked with amazing power. But Lin Muyu's power was even more fierce. With a sudden shout, the two martial souls broke out of her body and successively merged into a new martial soul, the Seven Luminaries' celestial sword. The golden sword with the power to break the sky was concentrated around the stellar sword. Suddenly, it swept out. The wind was strong and the rocks were cracked. With just one sword, more than 10 armor demons were all turned into corpses. Damn, Sidu-sen was dumbfounded. The armor demons were nightmares for others, but for Lin Muyu, the armor demons were slaughtered as if they were vegetables. Sidu-sen was amazed. His long sword was flowing with the mind-changing formula Xian energy. His sword fell down and killed the armor demons that Lin Muyu didn't have time to clean up. Wei Chao's attack method was even simpler. He pulled the bow and shot arrows, killing the armor demons almost one by one. He was the best archer in the Longdan army camp. With the sharpness of the white diamond arrow, every arrow was aimed at the throat. It was simply a nightmare for the armor demons. At the back, a group of soldiers in the Longdan army camp raised their shields and formed a cone-shaped formation, stabbing forward with Lin Muyu. In terms of combat power, almost none of them could fight with the armor demons face to face. But in terms of the strength of the formation, few armor demons could fight with the cone-shield spear-wielding cavalry of 2,000 heavy cavalries, even if they didn't have mounts. Perhaps they were encouraged by the Longdan army camp. The scattered soldiers of the Muyu city regrouped to fight against the demon clan. Many of them were even announcing, "The Longdan army camp is coming. Lin Muyu is coming. The valiant dragon army is fighting side by side with us." Courage needed to be encouraged. In this way, the news spread from 1 to 10, 10 to 100, 100 to 1,000, and 1,000 to tens of thousands. Su Long army, which was about to collapse, gradually stabilized the situation. The arrow boxes on the hillside were also shooting arrows. The steel arrows kept penetrating the armor demons' bodies. In this kind of forced attack, although the armor demons were fierce, they still suffered heavy losses. At this moment, a heavy voice suddenly came from the crowd of armor demons. "Lin Muyu, go to hell." Boom! A blood-red light burst out from the crowd and formed the image of a warhammer. It suddenly fell among the cavalries with cone-shield spear-wielding in the Longdan army camp. Suddenly, more than a dozen soldiers were blasted into a pile of flesh and blood by the energy impact. Among the group of armor demons, a man in golden armor swooped down. Lei Chong. Lin Muyu would never forget Lei Chong's ferocious face. It was this demon general who had killed Du Hai, one of the white-robed imperial forest generals, outside Winter Frost City. He had also killed the commander of the Yangwei army, Marquis Wei Minyulin. "Use the heavenly book," Situ Sun shouted in a low voice. Suddenly, more than a dozen people launched the dark force of the heavenly book. For a moment, thunder, fire, and frost swept the crowd of armor demons. However, the heavenly book seemed to be unable to do anything to Lei Chong. His body was surrounded by a layer of gang force formed by the Master Devil Force, which completely ignored the power of the heavenly book. Lei Chong jumped high with the warhammer. Layers of the realm force kept binding Lin Muyu's body. This was the brilliance of Lei Chong. He knew how to use the realm force to confine the opponent and then launch a fatal blow. Among the armor demons, Lei Chong was the only one who could achieve such amazing martial arts attainments. However, how could the current Lin Muyu be that reckless kid from back then? Chapter 587. Lei Chong's hammer was very powerful, but Lin Muyu just wanted to see how far Lei Chong's cultivation had advanced. With a low roar, her twin martial souls quickly separated and merged into the seven luminaries' celestial sword. She held the star's sword with both hands and the power of the star's skill surged. The sword was covered with starlight. She directly threw the first appearance of starlight at Lei Chong. Bang! The star force and the guru demonic force surged and exploded, and a shock wave swept out. The surrounding armor demons and soldiers of the Empire all covered their faces. The impact of the fierce wind and the rubble was very destructive. Many armor demons in the distance even raised their shields and made a defensive posture. As if she had hit a cannonball, Lin Muyu was violently bounced back. Her arms were numb. My goodness, Lei Chong's cultivation must have improved again. Lei Chong's golden battle robe fluttered in the wind, and a trace of surprise flashed through his eyes. This blow was actually blocked by Lin Muyu. This little human gave Lei Chong another surprise. Roar! Lei Chong swept the entire demon tribe with his warhammer. Even Qian Feng was somewhat afraid of him, let alone this little human in front of him. With a roar, Lei Chong's guru demonic force surged. There was a faint dark vortex dancing on his arms. His boots stepped on the rubble and rushed toward Lin Muyu. What greeted her was a heavy hammer. This hammer was simple and clear, but it was extremely difficult to dodge. Lin Muyu could not help but secretly complain. She gently opened her left hand, and a star ribbon danced in her hand. At the same time, a series of gourd vines broke out of the ground and entangled Lei Chong's feet. However, it did not work at all. Lei Chang's strength was too strong. The dense dark vortex between his feet directly tore all the gourd vines into pieces. The hammer fell from the sky and hit directly at Lin Muyu's head. The astral shackles suddenly spread out and bound Lei Chang's feet. Lin Muyu took advantage of the situation and swung her astral sword, blocking Lei Chang's hammer with a dang sound. The intense shock made Lin Muyu feel numb all over his body. His body was knocked to the side of the mountain rock. Lin Muyu maintained her calm. The king's battle flames surged under her feet. She stepped on the mountain rock with her battle boots and leaped into the air. She landed on Lei Chang's shoulder like an agile monkey. Lei Chang's body was really too strong, like a giant. The moment Lin Muyu landed on his shoulder, she let out a low roar. The gourd vines extended from her left hand and entangled Lei Chang's neck. The star's sword in her right hand shone brightly. The blood-red stardust turned into rocks and suddenly chopped at Lei Chang's neck. 5 mountains descend from the sky. Bang! The blade chopped at the dark vortex, and the shock made both of her arms numb. Lei Chang's protective Gangqi was not ordinary. However, Lin Muyu did not believe it. She gritted her teeth and formed an iron fist with her left hand. With a whistling sound, she punched at Lei Chang's head. Boom! Lei Chang's body suddenly stopped. It was as if he was frozen. However, half a second later, a wave of fist energy dissipated from his head. Lin Muyu's punch still did not work. Instead, at this time, Lin Muyu suddenly felt a pain in her legs. Lei Chang had already grabbed her feet and thrown her from above. Bang! The golden light of the diamond amulet shone in all directions. Lin Muyu and her sword heavily smashed a whole rock. Stone chips flew up into the sky. The whole ground seemed to be shaking because of the fight between the two experts. But Wei Chou and Situ Shui were anxious. Wei Chou raised his hand and shot an arrow. However, he did not have enough strength. The arrow only caused a ripple on the surface of Lei Chang's protective Gangqi. Before Situ Shui could save her, Lei Chang roared and rushed over. His boots crushed the rock, and his battle hammer dragged a horrifying trace on the ground and swept across the broken rocks. Bang! With a loud bang, Lin Muyu was swept away. The golden gourd wall around her was about to break. The energy of the diamond amulet was also on the verge of collapsing. She flew out like a cannonball and directly hit the shields of a group of armor demons. The force was so powerful that the group of armor demons, who were born with great strength, actually fell down. Oof. The group of armor demons roared and waved their spears, sabers, and battle hammers, as if they were going to dismember Lin Muyu. However, at this moment, the little human in front of them suddenly rolled a few meters away. She stood up in the air, and her palms were enshrouded with icy air. Suddenly, Lin Muyu passed through the crowd of armor demons. Snowflakes fell behind her. The next moment, nearly 100 armor demons around her were frozen into ice sculptures. 1 second later, all the ice sculptures were broken into pieces. The destructive power of the jade snow ice was truly shocking. Seeing that his subordinates were killed so cruelly, Lei Chang was furious. He rushed over with his battle hammer. His whole body was wrapped in a strong dark vortex, and the battle hammer fell from the sky. Clang! Lin Muyu blocked it with the star's sword. However, Lei Chang's speed was too fast. The battle hammer changed direction and swept horizontally. When Lin Muyu blocked it again, Lei Chang's battle boot, which was wrapped in a strong master's devil power, kicked toward Lin Muyu's chest. There was a great difference in height between them. Lin Muyu stomped on the ground with her left foot and flew up. Her right foot was full of mysterious energy of 5 elements and 8 wastelands, and she kicked at Lei Chang's battle boot. Bang! Lei Chang's battle boots were instantly shattered by the power of the 7 planets, revealing a smelly foot that was covered in black hair and had strong muscles. Lei Chang cackled loudly as he took the opportunity to stomp down. He was actually not afraid of the profound energy of the 5 elements 8 desolation annihilation. Lin Muyu's chest armor was kicked. She felt as if a mountain was pressing down on her chest. She couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood as she hurriedly retreated. Lei Chang's strength was too strong. It wouldn't be easy for her to fight him one-on-one. Go to hell, Lin Muyu. Lei Chang laughed crazily. He swept his battle hammer 3 times in a row, forcing Lin Muyu to be unable to fight back. He saw an opportunity and spun his battle hammer. With a dang sound, the stellar sword was sent flying. He could not help but laugh proudly. He raised his battle hammer and smashed it down on Lin Muyu. Lin Muyu's entire body seemed to be controlled by Lei Chang's domain. She could not move at all. She quickly raised her arms to defend herself, and with a loud shout, she summoned the golden dragon blood battle shield. Bang! When the battle hammer fell, Lin Muyu felt as if her arms were about to be shattered. The dragon blood battle shield was instantly shattered. Ah! Lei Chang laughed crazily and swung his battle hammer. This hammer strike was bound to smash Lin Muyu into pieces. However, at this moment, a flame appeared on Lei Chang's side. The flame spread and lingered in Lin Muyu's palm. When Lei Chang turned around, he saw a rapidly spinning sword engulfed in flames flying towards him. Dragon flame spiral break. Pung! The stellar sword was extremely sharp. Under the power of the dragon flame spiral break, Lei Chang's protective aura finally disintegrated. In the next moment, the golden armor on his abdomen was completely smashed by the stellar sword. However, before the stellar sword could penetrate further, Lei Chang swung his battle hammer and smashed the stellar sword away with a dang sound. But at this moment, Lin Muyu had already closed in like a ghost. Her right hand reached for her waist, and a shining dagger appeared in her hand. It was little magic sound. She grabbed the chain on Lei Chang's waist with her left hand and stuck to it like a bat. The magic sound dagger was filled with the 7 luminaries' celestial swords Xian energy. She stabbed at Lei Chang's abdomen. Puchi. Finally, blood. Lin Muyu pulled horizontally. Lei Chang's abdomen was instantly cut by nearly 20 centimeters. Blood flowed out. In pain, Lei Chang threw away his battle hammer and opened his palm to grab Lin Muyu's shoulder armor. He grabbed Lin Muyu with one hand as if he was grabbing a small animal and slammed her to the ground. With a bang, Lin Muyu was dizzy and her consciousness began to fade. Before she could react, the armor on her back received another heavy blow. It was Lei Chang's foot attack. Wah! Lin Muyu could not help but spit out a mouthful of blood. She struggled to convert the 7 luminaries' celestial swords Xian energy into the dragon blood battle shield on her back. At this moment, there was a sudden dragon roar. Icatosaurus, which had not been seen for a long time, seemed to have sensed a great threat to its master's life and directly flew out from the alternate dimension. It had been a long time since they last met, and the Crimson Crystal Dragon had undergone a huge change. No one knew what it had experienced in the alternate dimension, but its size had increased by nearly half. The dark golden scales on its body looked very hard. It raised its ferocious head and directly spat out a mouthful of dragon flame at Lei Chang. Whoosh! Lei Chang's eyebrows and hair were instantly burned off. The golden armor on his body was also melted. The surface of the gold plating turned into liquid gold and flowed to the ground. The steel below was instantly dyed red. Damn it! Lei Chang was only injured but not killed. With a roar, he opened his hand and grabbed the neck of Icatosaurus and swung the battle hammer in his right hand. Bang! Under the hammer, Icatosaurus howled in pain as its scales scattered. After all, Lei Chang was too strong. Lin Muyu's heart ached. She hurriedly shouted, "Armor form!" The next moment, the Icatosaurus in Lei Chang's hand suddenly turned into a scarlet light and dissipated. Instead, it turned into scales that stuck to Lin Muyu's white imperial forest armor. Even so, it was useless. Lin Muyu was already injured and could only use less than 20% of her original strength. She was definitely no match for Lei Chang. "Quick, save the commander!" Situ Sun roared and leaped up. His entire body was like a rock spreading its wings as he dove towards Lei Chang. The sword in his hand shone with dazzling astral power. It was initial starlight. Lei Chang did not care about a small fry like Sidu Senator. He raised his battle hammer and blocked the attack. Ding! Sidu Sen was sent flying. However, Lei Chang was not much better off. The price of seriously injuring Lin Muyu was that his combat power had been greatly reduced. At most, he could only use 40% of his strength. The most serious injury was the wound that Lin Muyu had made on his abdomen. It was still bleeding. Fortunately, he had the demonic power to protect him. Otherwise, his intestines would have flowed out. Rustle? Like a butterfly, Sidu Shui jumped up and down in a few leaps and landed beside Lin Muyu. Seeing Lin Muyu lying on the ground, she felt so sorry for him that her eyes turned red. Without saying a word, she pulled Lei Chang's arm and put it on hers. She activated her qi and quickly left this dangerous place. Fire! Wei Chou shouted. Chapter 588. Hundreds of Longdan army camp soldiers shot arrows at the same time, and all of them were white diamond arrows. In the blink of an eye, Lei Chang's chest and arms were full of white diamond arrows, but his protective gang qi had begun to condense, so the effect of this kind of shooting would be greatly reduced. Wei Chou could not help but roar, "Brothers of Muyu City, what are you waiting for? Are your arrow boxes just for decoration?" Only then did the remnants of the Twilight Rain City's army turn around. Several centurions personally set up the arrow boxes and pulled the bowstrings of the boxes. Immediately, thick and long steel arrows flew out and vibrated on Lei Chang's skin. Although they could not penetrate his skin, at least they could greatly reduce Lei Chang's strength. A group of armored demons moved forward and blocked the arrows for Lei Chang with their shields as they shouted in the language of demons. Lei Chang's face was filled with anger. He looked at Lin Muyu from afar and roared, "Lin Muyu, just you wait. Lei Chang, will definitely kill you. You bastard, just you wait." Leaning on his battle hammer, the arrogant Lei Chang slowly retreated under the escort of a group of armored demons. At the same time, another group of armored demons raised their weapons and launched the next round of attack. "What are you waiting for?" A captaincy of Muyu City raised his arm and shouted, "Commander Yu is already injured. Throw the black beach oil barrels and fire arrows to stop the attack of the armor demons." Behind them, the catapults immediately threw out barrels of black beach oil, which splashed in the crowd of armor demons. The armor demons looked at each other in surprise and only felt the smell of oil in their noses. However, the armor demons who had never fought against humans before did not know what it was. They looked up together and found a dense sea of fire arrows in the sky. They couldn't help but be dumbfounded. Then, they praised in a poetic way, "That graffiti pot of deer just now." Translation: "My mother, I am me, a different kind of firework, boom." The raging flames soared into the sky, covering the area of 1 mile in the valley. As a result, those armored demons were badly burned. In the blink of an eye, this round of attack of the armored demons had been retreated. After all, even Lei Chang had been beaten back. Those armored demons had lost their leader and had become a masterless army. Looking at the armored demons retreating in the distance, a group of soldiers of Muyu City suddenly raised their weapons and cheered as if they had survived a disaster. At this time, a captaincy of Muyu City came over with a long saber stained with the blood of the armor demons. He saluted to Lin Muyu and said, "General Su Zhang, thank you for your reinforcement. Otherwise, I'm afraid no one in this position could defeat Lei Chang." The surface of Lin Muyu's body was glowing with a faint golden light. Her two martial souls were absorbing the aura between heaven and earth as fast as possible to replenish her loss. At the same time, they were healing the internal injuries suffered by Lin Muyu. He nodded and said, "General Su, thank you for guarding here. The mission of the Longdan army camp is not here, so we can only provide a little reinforcement. Lei Chang has been injured, but he will definitely come back. I hope General can strengthen the defense and do a good job. Don't be caught off guard like this time." "I understand." When it was nearly noon, the entire Songlin Valley was boiling. The air was filled with a thick smell of blood. The front army and the left and right army had suffered from the frontal attack of the armor demons and suffered heavy losses. When Lin Muyu returned to the front army, she found that at least half of the 150,000 soldiers of Xianxia had been killed. There were numerous wounded soldiers. Less than an hour after the battle started, hundreds of casualty barracks had been full. The people of the Department of Spiritual Medicine were very busy. Are you injured?" Su Muyun came over and asked. Lin Muyu was really embarrassed at this time. Her white robe was badly damaged. Her shoulder armor was almost crushed by Lei Chong. Her white robe was covered with mud and the juice of grass. Behind her was an Acatosaurus whose neck was injured and bleeding. Qin Yin hurriedly got off the horse and checked his injury. Fortunately, his muscles and bones were not injured. Otherwise, it would be troublesome. What on earth happened? Qin Yin asked. She knew that ordinary enemies could not hurt Lin Muyu so badly. We met Lei Chong. Lin Muyu smiled bitterly. Lei Chong? Qin Yin was stunned. Su Muyun also frowned and said, Lei Chong appeared in the Su Long army? Yes, fortunately, Lei Chong was also injured. He should not lead the armor demons to attack the Su family's army for a while. That's good. Su Muyun let out a sigh of relief. Right at this moment, a group of cavalrymen covered in blood rushed out of the battle formation and went straight to the middle army. It was Xiang Yu and the others. Xiang Yu's face was splashed with the blood of the armor demons. After wiping it off, he turned over and knelt down in front of Qin Yin, saying, Your Highness, the attack of the armor demons is too fierce. If it goes on, my troops will be exhausted. We have more than 30,000 wounded soldiers. We need to rest and replenish our supplies. I request that the Iron Blade Army of the Middle Army should face the enemy head-on. The Iron Blade Army? Luo Xian's eyes turned cold. Xiang Yu looked at him indifferently and said, Soldiers are trained for 1,000 days to be used in one day. Are you saying that the Iron Blade Army of the Middle Army is just a decoration? Humph. Luo Xian said, Let's do it. The Iron Blade Army has been waiting for such a chance to make contributions. Qin Yin said softly, Approved. Su Muyun remained silent. The battle situation was so fierce. What could the Iron Blade Army do? Xiang Yu's corps couldn't turn the situation around, neither could the Iron Blade Army. The demon race's fighting force was very fierce. Every time an armor demon was killed, they would lose 5 to 8 soldiers of the Empire. No corps would be willing to pay such a high price. Lin Muyu finally understood why Qin Yin arranged for the Longdan army camp to bring up the rear. This was destined to be a war of attrition. The later the Longdan army camp went to battle, the less damage they would suffer. There was no shortcut in a real war. It was a war of attrition. The current war was just using the Empire's national power to consume the demon race's national power. In the blink of an eye, the afternoon passed. Iron Blade Army fought armored demons with spear and shield formation, which was similar to the tactics of Lin Muyu's spear-shield cavalry camp. Luo Xen was brave enough to lead the Iron Blade Army to fight demons until the evening. After the bloody sunset, it would soon fall into the night. What a concern! If demons fought at night, what should humans do? After all, they didn't know about the night vision ability of armored demons. No matter what, humans' night vision ability was extremely poor. At this time, in the Songlin Valley, a large number of troops were being mobilized in the demon race's left army camp. The high-level demon race soldiers began to light lamps, bringing a ray of light to the demon race's simple tent. Lei Chong was sitting on the seat of one of the 2 marshals in the central tent with a warhammer in his hand. A high-level demon was dressing the wound on his abdomen with an indignant look on his face. With the sound of footsteps, Qian Feng came in with a group of demon generals. He looked at Lei Chong with concern. Marshal, I heard that you were wounded in the left demon army camp. What happened? Who could hurt you like this? You almost got your guts cut open. Lei Chong's expression was extremely ugly. In his eyes, Qian Feng's words were simply ridiculing him. He slammed his fist on the table and said sternly, Lin Muyu, I must kill this person. Him again? Qian Feng frowned. Lin Muyu has sabotaged our celestial race's plans time and time again. If we don't get rid of this person, it will be difficult for us to conquer the Central Plains. General Lei Chong, please rest well and choose another day to fight. Lei Chong said, No, I don't need to rest. I heard that His Majesty is here? Yes, in the central tent. I'm going to see His Majesty. His Majesty said that since you're wounded, you don't need to see him. No, I'm going now. Lei Chong put on his armor and his blood-stained golden cloak. He went straight to the central tent. Qianfeng shook his head helplessly and followed. Inside the tent, the Demon King was still dressed in a black robe. He sat on his seat while the sage hid behind the curtains. Qianfeng and Lei Chong cupped their fists and said, "Greetings, Your Majesty." "You may rise." The Demon King whispered, "I heard that Marshal Lei Chong is wounded." "It's just a small injury. It won't affect my service to the celestial race," Lei Chong said in a low voice. "Ah, that's good." The Demon King said, "It's getting late. Let's call a truce tonight. Tomorrow morning, we will launch a fierce attack. We must take down the human camp west of Songlin Valley. Have an early rest, marshals. Rest well and go." "Yes, I'll take my leave first." After the two marshals left, the sacred master floated out from the curtains. His body was like a dark shadow that had condensed together. He smiled and said, "Your Majesty, even the ferocious beast Lei Chong was injured. This Lin Muyu is indeed not simple. Why don't I go and meet him?" The Demon King shook his head. "Sage, don't act rashly. There are many experts in the Empire. I wonder if that old thing Qin Han is here. If he is, if Qin Han and Lin Muyu work together, the sage doesn't have the confidence to win. Don't worry, the celestial race has the entire Shattered Cauldron realm in mind. Lin Muyu is just a mantis trying to stop a chariot. Oh right, have the 300,000 elite soldiers from the Iha kingdom come out of seclusion? Qin Yi is a sly old fox. If there wasn't a fat piece of meat in front of him, why would he come out? Oomph." At that moment, an invisible aura suddenly descended from the sky. The Demon King and the sage were shocked at the same time. Their bodies trembled and they started to activate their domains to resist the attacker. The attacker must be a god to be able to attack the Demon King and the sage at the same time. Moreover, it might not be as simple as a hierarch. The other party's aura grew stronger and stronger. Soon, all the lights in the central tent were extinguished. The few high-level Protoss soldiers guarding the central tent were dumbfounded. They died with blood flowing out of their mouths and noses. The Demon King suddenly stood up. Divine power circulated around him as a rainbow light shot into the sky. He shouted, "Who is it? Come out and meet me if you have the guts." The big tent was penetrated by the power, but there was no one there. It was just a silent starry sky. She left. The sage smiled faintly. "Looks like the Iha kingdom is ready to make a move. They actually let her test us first." "Heh," the Demon King laughed and said, "A mere useless god dares to show off in front of an expert. Don't these clowns from the Iha kingdom know that their death is near?" In the night sky, a red figure flew across the sky. The moonlight shone on her elegant face. It was Divine Monarch Fire Dance, Ouyang Yen. Her face was slightly pale. She had used her divine realm domain to intimidate the Demon King and the sage. Not only did she not hurt them, but she also suffered the consequences of her own actions. The people of the celestial race were indeed unfathomable. Chapter 589. Oh, the low roar of a Catasaurus could be heard from within the tent. It placed its huge head on Lin Muyu's shoulder and gently rubbed it. Its big eyes stared at the horse meat in Lin Muyu's hand, blinking, full of expectation and desire. Every time Lin Muyu lifted the meat, it became even more expectant. The scales on its head stood up like a mimosa, and its ears drooped down, full of obedience. However, when Lin Muyu placed the meat in its mouth, the scales on the Acatosaurus's face was filled with disappointment. Wei Cho said, "In just one afternoon, the Steel Blade Army lost more than 30,000 men, and many horses were also injured. Therefore, everyone's dinner has been changed to horse meat. My lord, eat as much as you want. If that Acatosaurus wants to eat, you can also feed it some. There's plenty of horse meat." Lin Muyu nodded and said to the Acatosaurus, "Come, open your mouth." The Acatosaurus bowed and blinked its eyes. It quickly raised its neck and opened its mouth. Lin Muyu lifted the entire silver cauldron and poured at least 3 caddies of horse meat into the Acatosaurus's mouth. The Acatosaurus swallowed it all without blinking. It then looked at its master with its big watery eyes and licked its lips. Its eyes were filled with hope as always. Lin Muyu was speechless. She rubbed the Acatosaurus's head and said, "Don't be too greedy. Even if there's plenty of horse meat, we still need to prepare for a long battle. Save as much as you can. Xiaolong, go back to the alternate space and find your own food." The Acatosaurus's mood was gloomy. This was the only thing Lin Muyu could feel. Ever since the Acatosaurus entered the alternate space, the soul contract between Lin Muyu and Acatosaurus seemed to have weakened. The only thing she could feel was the Acatosaurus's emotions. As for what Acatosaurus wanted to express, Lin Muyu had no idea. On the side, Wei Chou, Citizen, Citizen, and Fengxi were also eating in silence. After a while, Citizen raised his head and said, "My lord, do you think we have a chance of winning?" "Yes, although it's not a big chance." Lin Muyu comforted the troops. In fact, he knew that if this situation continued, the chance of winning would be less than 20%. Sidu Shui said, "Today, Xiang Yu's army, Steel Blade Army, Su Long's army, and the God Wei camp have a total of 90,000 soldiers killed and 110,000 wounded. On the other hand, the demons only lost less than 30,000 armor demons. At this rate, all 500,000 of us will die here, and the demons will still have 200,000 armor demons. Moreover, the high-level demon army hasn't even been mobilized yet." Lin Muyu frowned and said, "I know that, but I don't know what Xiao Yin is thinking. I asked her at dusk, but she didn't tell me. I feel that Xiao Yin has her own plan, but she didn't tell me." Wei Chou was stunned. "With the relationship between you and Her Highness, she didn't tell you?" "Yes." Lin Muyu sighed. "It doesn't matter. Since the Longdan army camp is responsible for bringing up the rear, let's be at ease and leave the rest to others." "Oh yes, is there any news from Feng Jixing and Su Yu?" "Not yet. From Mo Song Pass to Lin Valley is 1,000 miles away. It will take a day and a night to send a letter. Even if they received the letter, it was a day ago. It's useless. I hope Brother Feng is safe." "Commander, don't worry. General Feng is well-versed in military strategy. Even if Long Qianlin and Ding Shi make any strange moves, General Feng can deal with it. Moreover, Her Highness Tang Lan and Commander Su Yu are here. It's even more foolproof." "Yes." Lin Muyu nodded. She knew very well what kind of people Long Qianlin and Ding Shi were. These two people were too shrewd. Feng Jixing might be able to mediate if it was a one-on-one battle, but it would be a little difficult if it was 1 against 2. The moonlight of Lin Valley shone brightly on Mo Song Pass. Feng Jixing stood on top of the fortress in a white robe, looking at the soldiers cleaning up the battlefield under the moonlight. His face was full of solemnity. In the battle during the day, both sides suffered losses. Long Qianlin and Ding Shi had gathered nearly 400,000 men in Lingnan, but there were only 80,000 soldiers attacking the 3 passes. There were only 2 possibilities. The first possibility was that Long Qianlin thought that 80,000 was enough to break through the pass. The other possibility was that they had other plans. An imperial army captaincy walked up the cold stone steps and cupped his fists. "Commander, a total of 3,000 corpses of Iha country soldiers have been cleaned up outside the city. How many casualties did we suffer?" "Less than 700 people." At the side, Tang Shi couldn't help but laugh. General Feng is indeed a famous general of the present age. Under the attack of Long Qianlin and Ding Shi, he was able to kill and injure 3,000 of their soldiers, but his own casualties were less than 1,000. Mo Song Pass is sturdy, and defending a city has always been like this. There was no joy on Feng Jixing's face as he said, "Men, send a letter to Zhang Wei and Xiahou Sang, and order them to erect my commander flag with the word, Feng, on the city walls, so that Long Qianlin and Ding Shi would not be able to tell which city I am in." "Yes, this subordinate will do it right away." Su Yu combed her fluttering hair. She was still so graceful in the imperial female military uniform. Looking at Feng Jixing, who was in a daze, she couldn't help but laugh. "General Feng, what are you thinking about?" Feng Jixing looked at the thin layer of snow on the mountain range and said, "I am thinking, how long will it take for the snow to melt? Spring comes very quickly in Lingnan, and the temperature is warmer than in Lingbei. So, as long as it doesn't snow, the snow will definitely melt in 3 days. Maybe one day is enough, as long as the sun tomorrow is as good as today. Su Yu squinted her beautiful eyes and asked with a smile, "Why, does the snow have anything to do with our battle?" Commander Su Yu, you haven't experienced the Lanyan City Rebellion, so you don't know the origin of that war. But, as a general of the Empire, Commander Su, you should remember how the Iha rebels crossed the Qinling Mountains and conquered Songnan Province, Earthstar Province, and Lingdong Province in one fell swoop, right? Green cowhide crossing the mountains? Su Yu's body trembled. Do you mean Long Qianlin and Ding Shi will also use the green cowhide crossing the mountains? Why wouldn't they? Feng Jixing's eyes were indifferent. Lin Yu, who came up with the green cowhide crossing the mountains, is Long Qianlin's cousin, so it's not surprising that Long Qianlin will use the same trick again. Spring is warm, flowers are blooming, and all living things are coming back to life. Green has already begun to appear on the Qinling Mountains in the Swift White Province. I have asked around. There are at least 20 places in the Qinling Mountains that can be crossed. Although the 3 passes are dangerous, if Rong Qianlin and Ding Shi order hundreds of thousands of Iha soldiers to cross the mountains at night, they will surround the 3 passes and cut off our food supply and water supply. Su Yu's expression was anxious, and she sucked in a breath of cold air. So scary, what should we do now? Feng Jixing smiled. Commander Su Yu, don't panic. Both Duke Lan and I have already thought of this, so we have sent out tens of thousands of soldiers a day ago. We have sent 2,000 soldiers to every pass that can be crossed, set up traps, set up arrow boxes, and so on. As long as Long Qianlin and Ding Shi want to cross the mountains, no matter how many come, they will all die. Su Yu showed a trace of relief. Fortunately, General Feng is here. Sigh. Feng Jixing sighed and wrung his hands, not saying anything. Why is General Feng sighing? I'm sighing because I can only guard here. If it were you guarding the 3 passes, I'm afraid he would have already sent his troops to Lingnan and taken the initiative to attack. Su Yu couldn't help but laugh. This is also a good thing for the Empire. Commander Yu is good at attacking, and General Feng is good at defending. Both of them are indispensable. I think this is also the reason why Her Highness Yin sent Commander Yu to guard the 3 passes. Feng Jixing smiled awkwardly and continued to be silent. Late at night, on the rugged and winding mountain road of Qinling Mountains, a group of Iha soldiers dressed in black with swords and sabers in their hands walked cautiously. On one side of them was a bottomless abyss, and if they were slightly careless, they would fall and be smashed to pieces. However, the look in their eyes was resolute. Everyone knew that Ding Shi and Long Qianlin had ordered that the first person to cross the Qinling Mountains would be promoted to a chiliarch, with a reward of 1 million gold. However, it seemed that they didn't have the fortune to enjoy this reward of 1 million gold. Just after the first Iha soldier appeared, there was a sudden whoosh in the distance, and a sharp arrow directly pierced his throat. Immediately, his dead body rolled down the mountain cliff. The Iha soldiers behind were in a commotion. A centurion immediately pulled out his sword and shouted, "There's an ambush. Charge! Rush out of the ambush! They won't have too many troops." Hundreds and thousands of Iha soldiers madly rushed to the top of the mountain, but what greeted them was a row of pitch-black arrow boxes. With the sound of bowstrings being pulled, densely packed arrows flew out, and in the blink of an eye, hundreds of Iha soldiers in front of them were turned into corpses. Oh no! They came prepared. Achillearch's face was full of shock, and he said, "Retreat! Retreat! We can't attack anymore. Send a letter to the marshal." Papa! A messenger bird flew down the mountain at high speed. In the Iha army's main camp, Ding Shi opened the letter, and after glancing through it, his face was a little pale, and he said, "What a good Feng Jixing. He actually predicted that we would cross the mountains to attack and actually set up an ambush." Long Qianlin held the hilt of his sword, and said, "Immediately send the order to all the divisions to stop moving and withdraw from the Qinling Mountains." Yes. However, a captaincy said with hope, "General Long, what if the Empire only set up an ambush? The rest should be able to make a great contribution. General Long, please reconsider." Long Qianlin smiled slightly. "You don't understand Feng Jixing at all. His meticulousness is far beyond your imagination. Immediately send the order to withdraw all the troops that are carrying out the mission. Don't let them die in vain on the Qinling Mountains. Moreover, so what if 1 or 2 troops go over? The Empire has already heard of the movement, and the nearly 200,000 troops are not just for show. Yes, General Long. Long Qianlin sat down and looked at Ding Shi. Both of their faces were full of solemnity. How difficult would it be to seize the pass from Feng Jixing's hands? Chapter 590. February 7th. The battle outside Songlin Valley had been in a stalemate for 4 consecutive days. Finally, under the fierce attack of the demon race, the Empire could not hold on any longer. The 4 armies at the front had suffered heavy losses. Tens of thousands of wounded soldiers poured into the casualty barracks every day, but the elixir department could only send out a limited number of military doctors. Many soldiers had already died from their injuries. Late at night, Chu Yao was dressed in the long white dress of the elixir department's chief deacon. Her face was covered in sweat as she bandaged the broken leg of a wounded soldier. She had already lost count of the number of wounded soldiers she had treated today. A chief deacon of the elixir department, who was about 40 years old, said respectfully, "Chief Deacon Chu Yao, Commander Yu of the Dragon's Courage Legion has sent people to escort you out of the casualty barracks." "But why?" Chu Yao was surprised. The chief said, "The front line will most likely be lost. Once the demon race breaks through the Iron Blade Army's camp, they will march straight into the plains outside Songlin Valley. By then, we won't be able to leave even if we wanted to." "But..." Chu Yao bit her red lips and looked at the countless wounded soldiers lying on the ground in the casualty barracks. She could not help but ask, "What about these wounded soldiers?" A man lifted the white curtain and walked in. It was Lin Muyu's personal bodyguard, Bai Yin. He cupped his fists and said, "Chief Deacon Chu Yao, these wounded soldiers will be evacuated soon. You are the chief deacon of the elixir department and the commander's sister, so please bring everyone from the elixir department and follow me. There will be more wounded soldiers waiting for your treatment. Please do not make things difficult for me. Let's go." Chu Yao did not insist. She took off her blood-stained gloves and said, "Yes, immediately gather everyone from the elixir department and retreat with the Longdan army camp." Not long after, under the starry sky, a group of white-robed members of the spiritual medicine department boarded the carriages, while Bai Yin commanded several hundred cavalrymen from the Longdan army camp to stand guard at the side. He shouted, "Depart!" When the fleet left the casualty camp at a high speed, the moonlight fell all the way to the edge of the canyon. Over there, the battle roars were reverberating over 5 miles outside the canyon. The armored demons were attacking the human positions crazily. Even though many armored demons had lost their arms and legs, they were still fighting like wild beasts with resentful looks. Most of the Imperial soldiers were scared out of their wits by the armored demons' offensive. Many of them could not resist at all and were brutally killed. Their blood flowed all over the ground. Soon, the armored demon legion flooded over like a tide. What was worse was that the Wing Clan Legion's shrill screams constantly came from the sky. Taking advantage of the darkness, these Wing Clan Legion shot down countless arrows. The Imperial soldiers could only be beaten without being able to fight back. On the front line, Luo Exen carried her long spear and thrust it back and forth amidst the group of armored demons. Her purple dragon martial spirit's radiance soared to the sky, looking incomparably mighty. However, the people around her decreased as she fought, and in the blink of an eye, there were only a few left. Young General Luo Exen. On a hill, many soldiers waved the imperial war flag. Under the flag, the Marquis of Pingnan, Xianxia, sat on a tall horse and shouted, "Young General Luo Exen, retreat. We can't fight anymore. Otherwise, tens of thousands of us will die here." "What?" Luo Exen's eyes widened. "Once we retreat, the Godmight Battalion and Su Long's troops on the left and right sides will be ambushed and killed. The demons will break through the middle of the army and form an encirclement. They will be blocked on both sides of the valley and killed one by one. They will not be able to escape." Xianxia immediately held up a token and said, "Young General Luo Exen, this is the token given to me by Her Highness, the Empress." Please follow my orders and retreat with the Steel Blade Legion. Luo Xian looked behind him. There were at least 20,000 soldiers in the Steel Blade army. Although they were fighting fiercely, if they could hold on for 2 to 4 hours and let the Shenwei Battalion and Su Long Battalion retreat first, they might still be able to save Su Long Battalion and the Shenwei Battalion. However, Xianxia had given the order and Luo Xian could do nothing about it. Under Su Muyun's constant guidance, Luo Xian naturally knew what a soldier should do. With a face full of unwillingness, Luo Xian raised his spear and shouted, "Steel Blade Legion, retreat with Xiangyu's army. The 3rd Battalion, stay behind and cover the retreat. The 1st Battalion, follow me and cover the retreat of the God Might Battalion on the right. The 2nd Battalion, follow Deputy Commander Su Wan and cover the retreat of Su Long's troops on the left. Go now, don't hesitate." All of a sudden, the main force of the Steel Blade army retreated. The 3 battalions of about 6,000 soldiers split into 3 groups, with 1 group bringing up the rear and 2 groups providing cover for the other 2 battlefields. However, the winged army in the air was extremely sharp. Arrows rained down from the sky, killing the cavalry on the ground. Luo Xian looked up, his eyes bloodshot. "Bastards!" Xianxia clenched his fists and shouted, "Luo Xian, this bastard, how dare he act so arbitrarily? Men, retreat and leave the battlefield to the demons. Send a message to the Central Army and tell Her Highness that the front line has been routed. We can't hold them off anymore." "What? Routed?" In the central tent, Qin Yin slammed the table and stood up. She looked at the messenger in shock. Su Muyun and Zheng Yifan stood up at the same time and said, "Oh no." Zheng Yifan looked at the messenger and asked sternly, "Xianxia gave the order to retreat?" "Yes, Shenhou." "This bastard." Zheng Yifan's eyes flashed fiercely. The Central Army retreated without warning. This means that the flanks will be surrounded and annihilated by the demons. Xianxia has been leading the army for a long time. How could he make such a mistake? He's putting the Shenwei Battalion in a position of no return. "Men, bring my guards to reinforce the Shenwei Battalion. Bring back as many as you can." Su Muyun quickly grabbed Zheng Yifan's wrist and said, "Shenhou." Zheng Yifan looked back at him and said, "Gong Yun. The Shenwei Battalion is my life's blood. How can I let them die in vain in this Zonglin Valley?" Su Muyun's cloudy eyes were filled with helplessness. "Shenhou, the number of old officials in the empire is decreasing day by day. Du Hai, Lei Hong and the others have already left us. If Shenhou leaves, I'm afraid it'll be difficult for you to return. Shenhou, please take care of yourself. In the future, you still need to assist Her Highness to unify the empire. Let me go." Zheng Yifan was stunned. At this time, the messenger reported respectfully, "Your Highness, Marquis, young General Luo Xian has already led the Steel Blade Army's main force to cover the retreat of the Shenwei Battalion and Su Long's army." Xian Air. Su Muyun's arm was slightly trembling. He said, "Men, lead my personal guards and advance 5 miles to support the young general." At this time, Lin Muyu stood up and looked at the messenger with a pair of clear eyes. She said, "Stop." "Commander Yu, what's the matter?" The messenger's heart was pounding. Lin Muyu asked, "Tell me honestly, is the front line really at a point where they can't hold on any longer?" The messenger was perturbed and said, "Reporting to Commander Yu, the demon race's attack today is very fierce. At least 200,000 armored demons have attacked our front line. Our brothers at the front line have almost used up all their arrows and the heavenly tomes have been used up. Therefore, Commander Xianxia has ordered the entire army to retreat. Answer me directly. Can they hold on any longer?" Yes, but they definitely won't last until tomorrow." "Damn it," Lin Muyu said in a low voice. "What is Xianxia doing? Is he giving the Shenwei Battalion and Su Long's army to the demon race? One night is enough for the left and right armies to retreat. Why didn't the front line resist?" The messenger trembled all over and didn't dare to answer. Zheng Yifan frowned and said, "It's useless to say anything now. Let's think about what we should do next." Lin Muyu said, "Since Xianxia has ordered the retreat, they will definitely collapse. With Qianfeng and Lei Chang's personalities, it's impossible that they won't chase after us. Their wish is to fight us on the plains. The Empire has already lost the first battle. Su Muyun raised his eyebrows and said, "Then what's next?" Almost everyone's gaze fell on Lin Muyu. Everyone knew that the Steel Blade Army, Shenwei Battalion, Xiangyu Battalion, and Su Long's army had already fought against the demon race and lost. Their only hope was the well-preserved Longdan army camp. If the Longdan army camp couldn't turn the tide, then the Empire's 500,000 soldiers would really be eaten by the demon race in the Zonglin Valley. "Sirs, please command the troops to retreat in an orderly manner." Lin Muyu's voice was a little weak. She said, "I will arrange for the main force of the Longdan army camp to set up a formation to intercept the demon race's pursuers. Don't worry." "All right. Thank you, Commander Yu." Everyone nodded. Qin Yin didn't say a word. Her beautiful eyes were looking toward the southeast. That was the direction of the Sword Pavilion. The Empire's army had suffered a crushing defeat. If Sword Pavilion's Qin Yi still didn't send troops, then the entire continent's future would be out of control. On the north side of the Zonglin Valley, facing more and more demons, Su Long's army was losing ground. They couldn't tell each other apart in the dark. They could only hear the endless roars of the demons. Su Long rode his beloved warhorse with a long saber in his hand. His face was ashen as he shouted, "Military report? Where's the military report?" A centurion shouted, "Commander, Xiangyu ordered the entire army to retreat." What? Su Long's heart turned cold. He said, "This order didn't reach me at all." "Xiangyu, that bastard, is he trying to make us fall into eternal damnation?" "Men, immediately pass down my order. Everyone follow me and charge back. Retreat." "It's too late, Commander. Look over there." Su Long looked back. Under the moonlight, countless armored demons were charging out of the valley. They had already formed an encirclement. In an instant, Su Long's heart felt like it had fallen into a glacier. He murmured, it's over, Commander. What do we do now?" "Hurry up and give the order." A captaincy whose arm had been chopped off said with tears of blood. Su Long gritted his teeth. "Let's go. Retreat to the north with me. Grab the warhorses' necks and swim across the river. It's better than dying here." A group of infantrymen put down their shields and armors and rushed into the river with their short swords. They waved their arms and rushed to the other side of the river. They all knew that the armored demons could not swim. As long as they reached the other side of the river, they would be able to save their lives. However, a series of screams could be heard coming from the river. The river water turned blood red. The first 1,000 soldiers that entered the river were all killed. It was the demon army. God damn it! Su Long's body trembled in anger. He shouted, "Brothers, it's time to show our loyalty to the Empire." Kill. A group of Kiliarchs and captains led the remaining troops to regroup and charge at the tide-like armor devils. However, when they looked back, they found that Su Rong's sword had slashed across his neck, and he had lost all signs of life and fallen off his horse. In the early morning of the 8th of February, year 7736 of the Empire calendar, Su Long, the deputy military governor of Yunzhong province and the commander of the army, committed suicide in defeat. Chapter 591. After the sun rose, the pursuit did not stop. The demon race was everywhere, brandishing their weapons as they charged into the battlefield. The 4 major armies of the Empire had already been smashed to pieces. Countless soldiers were scattered around the Zonglin Valley and eventually became the target of the demon race's slaughter. Within a day, the demon race had marched straight into the territory of 10 miles, killing the Empire's army, causing them to lose their will to fight. Tuck, tuck, tuck. At dusk, the demon race finally sent out their elite high-level demon race cavalry. Nearly 10,000 demon race cavalry galloped across the plains like the autumn wind sweeping away the fallen leaves, tearing the lone troops of the Empire into pieces. Cries and screams filled the air. This was not like a war, but more like a massacre. Pooh! The sound of a sword piercing into a chest was very pleasing to the ear. A demon race general, who was wearing a high-ranking military badge on his chest, slowly pulled out the sharp sword from the chest of a young soldier of the Empire. He smiled and said, "Is this extremely weak race really the rulers of the continent for tens of thousands of years?" The demon race soldier beside him smiled and said, "General, they are indeed, but the rulers of the continent for the next tens of thousands of years will be our god race. We are the real masters of the continent. Continue to advance. Let these humans taste the feeling of being slaughtered." Yes. However, this line of about 200 demon race cavalry did not notice the pairs of eyes behind the evergreen shrubs and the arrow boxes that were ready to shoot. Su Jiantao pulled the bowstring of the arrow box, his face full of caution, and said, "Don't be anxious, we will wait a little longer. Listen to my orders, we must kill more than half of them in one round of arrows, otherwise this group of demon race will not be easy to deal with." "Yes, General." A large group of soldiers nodded one after another. Su Jiantao continued, "The high-level demon race is proficient in horsemanship and swordsmanship, so in a moment, they will definitely attack our battle formation. Spearmen in front, archers in the back. All cavalry, get on your horses and finish the battle." Su Jiantao's dark eyes stared at the demon cavalry in the distance. They were getting closer and closer, less than 100 meters away. He knew that this was the strongest range of the arrow box, so he immediately shouted, "Shoot!" Dozens of arrow boxes were launched at the same time, and the arrows flew out like a shuttle. Shwa shwa shwa. The invincible steel arrows could even break through the hard armor of the demons, let alone these soft and tender high-level demons. In the blink of an eye, dozens of high-level devils had been turned into porcupines together with their horses. However, many high-level devils with impressive cultivation had condensed their demonic fighting aura and demonic blood breath as their protective aura. The steel arrows bounced off one after another, unable to cut into their bodies. "Bastard!" The high-ranking demon general roared angrily as he pointed his sword forward and yelled, "Charge! Kill these despicable humans!" It would take a lot of time to refill the arrow boxes after shooting all the arrows. Su Jiantao could not afford to waste this time, so he turned around and mounted his horse with his sword and shouted, "Charge!" In the evergreen bushes, hundreds of soldiers in the Longdan army camp stood up one after another. The spearmen were in front, and the shield and archers were in the back. Pew pew pew. The spears kept stabbing into the bodies of the warhorses and high-level devils, but there were too many people with impressive cultivation among this group of high-level devils. The demonic blood breath swirled in the night sky, and the long swords danced in the air. Hundreds of soldiers in the Longdan army camp in front of them were killed in the blink of an eye. The combat power of the high-level devils was too terrifying. "Prepare the heavenly book." Su Jiantao was on the horse. He suddenly held his sword horizontally in front of his chest and said, "Flame." The four generals in front of him held their weapons horizontally. Suddenly, golden divine characters soared into the sky, activating the power of heaven and earth. Moreover, they were the heavenly book of the law of fire. For a moment, a fiery red rain of fire fell from the sky and landed in front of them, swallowing a group of high-level devils. Su Jiantao raised his sword and shouted in a low voice, "Defend where you are. Archers, get ready." The flames continued to rise. The flames of the heavenly book could only last for a few minutes, but it was enough. A group of soldiers in the Longdan army camp widened their eyes and looked at the sea of fire under the night sky. Could it be that there were still devils that had not been killed? At this moment, a curse suddenly came from the flames. A devil general who was bathed in fire rushed over. It was the general of the team of 200 people. The gang energy on his body had been completely burned by the heavenly book of the fire attribute. His skin began to burn black, and there was a faint smell of burning, but his life was still very strong. He roared and rushed out of the sea of fire. Swoosh, 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 arrows flew like shuttles. In the blink of an eye, the high-level devil from the 4-star devil sect was shot into a hedgehog. How could he do anything else? He whimpered and knelt on the ground, dead. Su Jiantao scoffed faintly and said, Pack up the arrow boxes. Let's go and set up another ambush at the back. Sir. However, just when a group of soldiers was about to pack up the arrow boxes, a chill suddenly spread around them. In the next moment, sharp sword chi erupted from the bushes, and tens of soldiers' bodies were completely cut into pieces. Amidst the frost, a strong figure stepped on the ice and flew toward them. His face was full of anger. Su Jiantao, let's see where you can go this time. It was Bai Bing. He was one of the most capable generals under Qianfeng's command. He was also the one who assassinated Tang Tian and severely injured Tang Lu, which gave Tang Lan many reasons to rebel. Be careful. Naturally, Su Jiantao knew how powerful Bai Bing was. He hurriedly took out another long sword from his dimensional bag and shouted, "Brothers, send the signal." Among the crowd of Longdan army camp, a soldier took out a bamboo tube that was ground with black beech powder. After he ignited it, purple smoke rose into the sky. The black beech powder ignited when it came into contact with fire. Although its explosive power was not strong enough to be used as gunpowder, it was more than enough to be used as a signal flare. Die! Bai Bing swung his long sword. Before the long sword landed, the sword ray had already landed on the ground. It was the power of Bai Bing's domain. Su Jiantao's body trembled, and the armor he wore trembled violently. A pale blue light lingered around him. It was the effect of the engravings on the armor, and it was resisting Bai Bing's domain. Su Jiantao was fine, but the bodies of more than 10 soldiers behind him were crushed by the sword chi and domain. Clang. The moment the two swords collided, Su Jiantao fell off his warhorse like a cannonball. Bai Bing's strength was far beyond his expectations. Protect the governor. A group of cavalrymen rushed forward, but Bai Bing only sneered and waved her long sword. Streaks of frosty sword aura slashed out, killing the crowd of Longdan army camp as if there was no one there. Just when Bai Bing split a soldier of the Courage Dragon Battalion into two halves, a strong pressure suddenly came from the sky and locked Bai Bing's breath in the blink of an eye. In the sky, a young general wearing a general's robe descended from the sky, holding a shining longsword and surrounded by fierce fighting flames. Whether it was the attire or the look in his eyes, it was enough to make him look like him, but his momentum was a notch higher. Buzz. Astral power flowed into the star's sword, and Lin Muyu launched a strike. The first appearance of the stars. Bai Bing did not dare to be careless when he felt the arrival of a strong enemy. He roared and raised his long sword. Streaks of frost condensed around the blade. The ice shattered, and Lin Muyu pressed on Bai Bing's blade. Without waiting for him to react, she added a second force to the star's sword. Chaos of the common people. The common people's celestial phenomenon danced on the blade. Bai Bing did not expect Lin Muyu to recover so quickly. An ordinary Sacred Realm elite would need at least 2 to 3 seconds to recover after using more than 50% of their strength. Otherwise, the energy in their sea of energy would not be able to fill up quickly. However, Lin Muyu actually charged up another strike in less than a second. Bai Bing's ferocious nature made him unwilling to be humiliated. The layer of ice on the blade became thicker. The chaos of the common people burst out a shock wave on the two swords, forcing Su Jiantao and the others to retreat. At the same time, Bai Bing's feet sank deep into the soil and slid back 3 meters. Lin Muyu's eyes were filled with killing intent. He had long heard of Bai Bing. Now that he had met him, how could he let him live? Poof! In less than a second, the third energy wave on the star's sword spread out. 3 luminaries calamity. Wah! Lin Muyu's body was in the air, and the third force had already erupted. Bai Bing immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. When had he ever seen such a battle style? Ding! The treasured sword in Bai Bing's hand that looked like the star's sword was instantly broken. The sword's soul wailed as it was torn apart by Lin Muyu's 3 luminaries calamity power. The star's sword also took the opportunity to slash on Bai Bing's shoulder. Fresh blood splattered. Bai Bing's protective chi was indeed very powerful, but his opponent was the stronger Lin Muyu. He couldn't even withstand a single blow. Bai Bing slid back dozens of meters. He really hoped that he could suddenly disappear from this place and escape, but his entire body was already firmly controlled by Lin Muyu's power. There was no chance of survival. Lin Muyu's eyes were filled with murderous light. With a roar, the fourth force erupted. Snowflakes floated around the longsword. Lin Muyu smiled at Bai Bing and said in a very calm voice, "You pretended to be me and used the law of ice to kill people to frame me. Now, I will use the real Bai Bing's cold ice to send you to hell." "Don't." Bai Bing was so frightened that he actually cried. Tears rolled down from his eyes. But since he was already here, how could it be so easy to leave? Kacha. The sword blade that was filled with a cold aura broke out of Bai Bing's body. At the same time that Bai Bing's body was frozen into ice, Lin Muyu and the sword pierced through Bai Bing's body. When Bai Bing's body landed on the ground, there was a crisp sound and he turned into pieces of corpse fragments. Pa! Icy chi filled the surroundings. Lin Muyu floated to the ground and completed a series of attacks in the air. For the current Lin Muyu, there were no rules in a battle. The rules that could kill the opponent were the best rules. Originally, he was stronger than Bai Bing, but he was definitely not strong to this extent. He needed at least 20 moves to kill this 5-star demon ancestor level expert. However, the sudden attack and the pinnacle of power control allowed him to kill Bai Bing in just 4 moves and 10 seconds. "Commander!" Su Jiantao and the others all knelt down to pay their respects. Lin Muyu raised her hand and said, "Don't pay attention to so many things on the battlefield. Everyone get up and prepare for battle." Su Jiantao nodded and said, "Commander, as soon as Bai Bing died, Qian Feng and Lei Chong will definitely send the news. The main force of the Armor Demon Legion led by Lei Chong is less than 10 li away from here. They should arrive soon." "Just right." Lin Muyu raised the corner of her mouth and said, "I'm waiting for him. By the way, is there any news about Qian Feng?" "No, no one saw where Qian Feng is." "Oh," Lin Muyu softly responded, but she was at a loss. "Qian Feng, what are you doing?" Chapter 592. What? Bai Bing was killed? Under the starry sky, the galloping armor demon army suddenly stopped. Lei Chong held his warhammer and said with fierce light in his eyes, "How could it be?" Bai Bing was one of the most powerful generals under the command of Marshal Qianfeng. He was one of the best fighters even among the high-level Protoss. How could he be killed? Who killed him? "It's the commander of the Empire's Valiant Dragon Battalion, Lin Muyu." The winged messenger said carefully, "We only dared to observe the battle from the sky and did not dare to approach them. There were too many of them. I saw Master Bai Bing being killed with my own eyes." "Damn it." Lei Chong smashed his warhammer on the ground heavily. Immediately, a big pit appeared in the ground in front of him. The power of fire slowly rose from the deep pit. Lei Chong gnashed his teeth and said, "Lin Muyu, that D***Ned B*** has lost another general of our Protoss. How can we not take revenge? Someone, pass down my order to the 3 armies. I heard that Lin Muyu has already set up a battle formation 5 miles away and is waiting for us." A high-level demon general cupped his fists and said respectfully, "Marshal, please calm down. I hope you can think about it carefully. Don't forget what Marshal Qianfeng told you before you left. Don't go beyond 10 miles away from the Zonglin Valley. If we go any further, we will be 10 miles away. Marshal Qianfeng wants us to station our troops here." "Station our troops here?" Lei Chong sneered. "Does Qianfeng know that Lin Muyu killed Bai Bing? Does he know that Lin Muyu has stationed troops to fight against him? He doesn't even know that a general can't obey the orders of the emperor. Don't talk so much nonsense. I have 110,000 armor demons under my command. Do you think I'm afraid of his valiant dragon army? Gather the men and horses immediately. We'll charge over in 2 hours." The rumbling war drums sounded. The armor demons scattered around the valley all pricked up their ears to listen to where the drums were coming from. Then they rushed over like a pack of wolves. In the blink of an eye, a group of tide-like armor demons had already gathered under the moonlight. The armor demons did not have any formation or phalanx. They just charged and killed. However, this kind of charge was simply a disaster for humans. The 200,000 men that Su Muyun, Zhen Yifan, and Tang Lan had trained so meticulously were utterly defeated by the attack of 150,000 armor demons. This was a very good example. 5 miles away, on the road between the valleys, the Longdan army camp was waiting for the enemy in the distance. The bright moon fell on the ground and shone on everyone. A total of 45,000 people formed a battle formation, which was divided into 8 formations: Qian, Kuan, Jin, Sun, Ken, Li, Zhen and Dui. This was the 8 formation chart that Lin Muyu found from Lulu's cache data. It was said that it was copied from the inscription of Guduji, a military strategist of the Tang dynasty. When Lin Muyu gave this 8 formation chart to Wei Chou was obsessed with it. That was how the unique 8 formation chart of the Longdan army camp was created. The 8 formations, including the central army, had a total of 9 formations. They were spread out on the vast plains, with 5,000 people in each formation, a total of 45,000 people. It was a majestic sight, while Wei Chou stood on the high platform of the central army. On the hillside in the distance, Qin Yin, Su Myun, Lin Muyu and Zheng Yifan were watching from afar. 8 formation chart. Zheng Yifan squinted his eyes and smiled. I have never seen such a formation in my entire life. Commander Yu, have you used this 8 formation chart in actual combat? No. Lin Muyu said frankly. Su Muyun smiled. Although I have not used it in actual combat, I feel that this formation is very mysterious from afar. Moreover, with General Wei Chou personally overseeing it, I think it will be a great achievement. I don't dare to say that. Lin Muyu pondered. I just hope that it can stop the demons for 1 day and 1 night. Why 1 day and 1 night? Zheng Yifan asked. Could it be that Commander Yu still has some tricks up her sleeves? No, I just said it casually. 1 day and 1 night. Qin Yin held the hilt of her sword and asked, Has Xianxia returned? Luo Exen shook her head. Commander Xianxia led nearly 50,000 elite troops of Qihai City and disappeared. Before he left, he said that he would definitely repay the country with his life. After that, we lost contact. That bastard! Su Muyun gritted his teeth. I have never seen such a disregard for military law. If Xianxia did not order the entire army to retreat, we would not have ended up like this. Poor Su Long, not a single one of his 100,000 troops returned. How hateful and infuriating. Luo Exen comforted him. Imperial Father, please do not be too sad. Commander Su Long sacrificed his life for the country. As for us, our Iron Blade army still has about 30,000 people. There are also many of our people in the wounded barracks. Our strength is still there. Qin Yin said, How is the arrangement of the wounded barracks? Chu Yao said respectfully, Your Highness, the wounded barracks have been moved 10 miles to the west. However, the retreat was too hasty. We still have nearly 40,000 wounded soldiers who did not have time to evacuate. Most of them have already fallen into the hands of the demons. Qin Yin's body trembled and her beautiful eyes became misty. The Empire has let them down. Lin Muyu looked at the front indifferently and did not speak. At this moment, a messenger bird landed on his arm. When he opened it, he saw the handwriting of Su Jiantao. The Thunder Rush Army is here. They have about 100,000 troops and are 3 miles away. In fact, the billowing smoke and dust in the distance could almost be seen. The sound of killing could be heard in the wind. On the plains, with the help of the moonlight, they could see a black tide surging towards the 8 formation diagram of the Longdan army camp. At least 100,000 armor demons had finally arrived. Everyone almost suffocated. No one had seen the formation of the demons from this angle. This was the first time. Will we be the ones to make history? Qin Yin suddenly muttered to herself. Lin Muyu secretly held her cold little hand and smiled. Yes, we will. Don't worry. Qin Yin also smiled. At this moment, the only thing that could make Qin Yin feel relieved was Lin Muyu's confident smile. Although Lin Muyu did not have much confidence, because he did not think that the 8 formation diagram could really resist the armor demon army. Looking at the group of guards behind her, Lin Muyu said, Send the winged cavalry to investigate. I need to know where Qianfeng is. The group of guards retreated. Su Muyun smiled and said, Commander Yu is so concerned about Qianfeng's movements? If Qianfeng is here, we will definitely lose. If Qianfeng is not here, we will definitely win. Lin Muyu's voice was very calm, but surprisingly full of confidence. With Qianfeng's strategy and vision, he would definitely be able to see through Lin Muyu's real intentions. If Qianfeng was not here, and only Lei Chong was here, this reckless commander of the armor demons would not be able to see through too much. Lin Muyu was full of confidence in this. They are coming. They are attacking. Luo Xian said eagerly. Her voice revealed some excitement. Yes, they are attacking. Zheng Yifan's voice was more desperate. The cold wind whistled past the general platform. Wei Chou was standing on the general platform in a white robe. The two-star military insignia on his shoulder was glowing with a faint golden light. Looking at the armor demon army coming from afar, he gently raised his hand and said, Drummers, flag-bearers, order the tiger wing formation to fight. The drums were beating in unison. The flag-bearers waved the war flags rapidly. The formation changed rapidly. Their wings were like sharp claws. Their defense was accompanied by an awe-inspiring attack. Ruther! The armor demon army roared and rushed at the heavy shields outside the formation. However, there were layers of people behind the heavy shields. The soldiers of the Longdan army camp were resisting with their bodies. 10 or even 20 people could naturally resist the impact of the armor demons. Sparks splashed on the heavy shields. The armor demons in the first row could not rush in at all. On the contrary, the archers behind the shields were shooting randomly. White drill arrows fell on the armor demons like rain. In the blink of an eye, a lot of armor demons were killed or injured. Charge! In the crowd, Lei Chong appeared. He rushed into the crowd with his war hammer and tore the bodies of dozens of soldiers of the Longdan army camp into pieces. However, dozens of people were nothing compared to the battle formation of 5,000 people. The formation quickly rotated to fill the gap. However, arrows and spears kept coming. Although Lei Chong could kill people, he could not break the formation. The armor demons kept rushing at the periphery and quickly penetrated into the formation. It was like water flowing around a stone pillar in a stream. Wei Chou saw it clearly. He raised his arm again and shouted, Snake coil formation. Dong, dong, dong. The sound of the war drums became rapid. The battle formation changed rapidly. They were connected in pairs like snakes coiling in the wild. In the blink of an eye, the armor demons that entered the formation were devoured. The shields on the periphery quickly changed into a defensive echelon, preventing the armor demons from rushing in. The front formation was full of shield-bearers and spearmen. The 8 formation diagram that Wei Chou trained could be said to have used the Qiankuan tactics to fight against the demons. Damn it! Lei Chong bellowed from outside the formation, Charge! Leap and attack! The winged army, move out and attack the sky above their formation. We must destroy the valiant dragon camp. Countless winged people soared into the sky and started shooting arrows down from the sky. Wei Chou could not help but take a deep breath. After blocking a few arrows with his sword, he raised his arm and shouted, Bird flight formation, use the heavenly book. The sound of the war drums became more intense, and the battle formation continued to change. At the center of each formation, soldiers holding shields piled up like a human pyramid. When the soldiers at the top were nearly 10 meters tall, they stepped on their shields and leaped into the formation. The weapons in their hands glowed with a faint golden light. In the blink of an eye, more than 100 soldiers leaped into the sky. Heaven and earth energy surged, and more than 100 spiritual books, earthly books, and heavenly books exploded in the sky. For a moment, flames, storms, icicles, and rocks exploded in the sky. It was as if a purgatory had been created in the human world. Boom, boom, boom. The heavenly book was extraordinary. In order to maintain their shooting power, the winged men in the sky were less than 50 meters away from the ground. They were all within the range of the heavenly book. For a moment, screams could be heard. In the blink of an eye, almost 30,000 winged ones had been killed. Charred and frozen corpses of winged ones rained down from the sky. Shilbash! Wei Chou continued to give orders calmly. The soldiers raised their shields above their heads, and the clanging sounds of the wing men falling could be heard. "Oh my God!" On the hill, Zhen Yifan took a deep breath and said, "Wei Chou is truly a brave general of the present age." Lin Muyu was silent. Her expression was solemn, but she could not help but feel a little proud. Wei Chou was her favorite general, and he had gradually grown into a leading general. This kid did not let her down. Chapter 593. The moonlight sprinkled on the land inside and outside Black Pine Pass like frost. To the south of the city, war drums thundered and torches lit up the sky. Hundreds of thousands of Iha country's troops were in battle formation. Finally, after the successive failures of the Qingyu country's strategy of crossing the mountains and crossing the sea by deception, Ding Shi and Long Qianlin had no choice but to fight head-on with Feng Jixing, who guarded the three passes, under the urging of Qin Yi, the commander-in-chief of Iha country. Creak, the axle of the siege catapult rotated, producing an extremely unpleasant sound. This was an improved catapult. Its entire body was made of steel, and its torque system was very sophisticated. It could be thrown up to a range of nearly 500 meters. It could be considered a secret weapon of the Iha country. Ding Shi's eyes were cold as he looked at the towering Black Pine Pass in the distance. He raised his hand and said, "Fire the torch stones immediately after entering the firing range and burn Black Pine Pass. Let's see how long Feng Jixing can hold out." The group of generals cupped their fists in unison. The next moment, flaming stones were placed into the trough of the catapult. Torch stones were a kind of flammable stone material wrapped in cotton and other materials. After being poured with black beech oil, they burned fiercely. Accompanied by a loud bang from the catapult, the torch stones soared into the sky and headed straight for Black Pine Pass. Bang, bang, bang. Most of the torch stones crashed onto the city wall, but many rolled into the fortress, burning the soldiers inside and causing them to scream in pain. "Put out the fire." Feng Jixing walked along the corridor with his hand on the hilt of his saber and said with a livid face, "Everyone hide well and don't get hit by the torch stones. Soldiers in the city carry water to extinguish the fire. Order those outside the city to quickly draw water from the nearest water source into the city." "Yes, Commander." At the edge of the fortress, Feng Jixing pressed his hand on the battlement and looked at the rumbling fire in the distance. He couldn't help but worry. The Iha nation had really begun to attack the fortress. Although the three passes were sturdy, they might not be able to hold out for long, especially after the Iha nation used this new type of catapult. There was already little water in the Qinling Mountains, so it was difficult to extinguish the fire. Moreover, the interior of the fortress was made of wood. Once it was set on fire, it would be difficult to save it. At this moment, Tang Lan walked up the stone steps with the help of a walking stick and coughed violently. "Your Highness, Seven Seas King." Feng Jixing hurriedly went forward and said, "You're not feeling well, why did you come up to the city yourself? Quickly go and rest, leave the matters here to me." Tang Shi also said, "Yes, Your Highness, just leave the matter here to us. Do you all think I'm so old that I'm about to die?" Tang Lan smiled and narrowed her eyes at the hundreds of thousands of mighty soldiers in Lingnan. She couldn't help but lament, if the 100 Ridge Cavalry that guards the Sword Pavilion is the strongest army in Iha Nation, then Ding Shi and Long Qianlin's army should be the second strongest army in Iha Nation. "General Feng, are you confident that you can guard all three levels?" Feng Jixing said, "For more than 3,000 years, the north and south of the Qinling Mountains have always been loyal to the imperial capital, and there has never been any war on the Qinling Mountains. Although Ink Pine Pass is majestic, there are very few war supplies. The walls are peeling and have been in disrepair for a long time. In addition, Iha Nation has newly developed catapults. I'm afraid that if they continue to attack like this, Ink Pine Pass will collapse into ruins in less than 10 days. Tang Lan frowned. "In that case, defending for a long time isn't a solution. Does General Feng have an idea?" "Yes, but I need the help of the Seven Seas King." "What help?" Feng Jixing said seriously, "Your grandson Tang Lu is not dead. He's leading 300,000 soldiers to guard the Seven Seas Pass and hasn't advanced. He even threatened that unless there's a letter from you, Seven Seas King, they won't obey your orders. It said that Princess She has already mobilized the demon army to guard against any mishaps. So, Seven Seas King, please write a letter to me. I'll immediately send someone to summon Tang Lu and 300,000 elite soldiers. As long as we have these 300,000 elite soldiers, we can turn the tables and open the 3 levels to fight Long Qianlin and Ding Shi's armies. There's such a thing? Tang Lan smiled and said, perhaps the soldiers of Seven Seas City have been living in Seven Seas Province for a long time and can't stand the life in the south. I heard that many soldiers have fallen ill and need to recuperate. So, let's wait a little longer. When they've recovered their combat strength, I'll naturally order them to head to the front lines to fight against the demon race and Iha nation. Feng Jixing naturally knew what this old fox was thinking. He was waiting for the empire to be defeated, or for the Iha nation and the demon race to suffer heavy losses. In this way, the 300,000 elite soldiers of Seven Seas City could attack Lanyan City and become the new master of the empire. Unfortunately, Tang Xiaoxi had already led the demon army to surround and defend Lanyan City. Tang Lan's wishful thinking would ultimately fail. In that case, let's wait a little longer. A trace of coldness flashed across Feng Jixing's eyes as he said, not long ago, we received military intelligence from Songlin Valley. The Empire's armies suffered a great defeat. The deputy governor of Cloud Province, Su Lin, committed suicide. The Godmight Battalion and Iron Blade Army were also defeated and suffered heavy losses. I'm afraid the Empire's army in Songlin Valley won't be able to hold out for much longer. Tang Lan's face was grave and stern. General Feng, don't worry. In 2 days, Seven Seas City will send out their army. At the moment of the Empire's survival, I hope that Duke Lan will put the people of the world first. Feng Jixing looked at him deeply and said, once the Empire's army is destroyed, the demon race and Iha nation will take advantage of the situation and invade. I'm afraid that even the 300,000 elite soldiers of Seven Seas City won't be able to help. Your Highness, you're a businessman. I don't think you'll do any unprofitable business, right? Tang Lan was silent. He coughed violently and said, men, help me down. Looking at Tang Lan's receding figure, Feng Jixing clenched his fists and gnashed his teeth in hatred. Su Yu's voice was very cold. She didn't care about Tang Shi who was beside her and said, the Empire's survival is at stake, yet he's still hiding his strength and biding his time. He really doesn't know what's good for him. If he hadn't been so evasive, I'm afraid Iha nation wouldn't have attacked Lanyan City. Feng Jixing didn't say anything. Instead, Tang Shi smiled faintly and said, when Duke Lan was evading, it seemed that Duke Yun of Twilight Rain City was also biding his time. Commander Su, you should have been by Duke Yun's side at that time. Don't you know what Duke Yun was thinking? Su-er was so angry that her face turned pale. She bit her red lips and didn't argue with Tang Shi. However, Feng Jixing took a deep breath and said, forget it, let's wait for another 2 days. Let's see if you and the Longdan army camp can resist the demon race. If news of Yu's defeat comes from the direction of Songlin Valley, then I'll leave my commander's flag on Mo Song Pass. I'll lead 30,000 Imperial soldiers to reinforce Songlin Valley at full speed. No matter what, I can't let anything happen to Her Highness Yin. Su-er nodded and said, yes. Tang Shi cupped his fists and said, General Feng, don't worry. Even if I have to sacrifice my life, I will definitely not let Long Qianlin and Ding Shi break through the 3 passes. Thousands of miles away, the sound of war drums rumbled on the main road. The 8 formation diagram, formed by the 45,000 soldiers of the Longdan army camp, was like a tough wedge that nailed the nearly 200,000 soldiers of the Thunderchong army camp to the east of the Unicorn Forest, making it impossible for them to advance. The sun was about to rise from the east, and the soldiers of the Longdan army camp had persevered for a whole night. Almost everyone was exhausted. Tiger Wing Formation, meet the enemy. Wei Chou raised his arm, his face full of smoke and dust, and said, fire black tortoises. Immediately, more than 100 staff members of the beast-taming department of the Divine Temple of Lanyan City stepped out of the battle formation. Their palms were enshrouded with spiritual power. Behind them, more than 100 huge fire-black tortoises stepped out of the formation. These fire-black tortoises curled up their bodies and protected themselves with flaming armor. Their bodies were filled with raging flames as they charged toward the armor demons. Boom, 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 balls of flames soared into the sky, and the screams of the demon tribe came one after another. The armor demons were afraid of fire. Their wings were flammable, and even their bodies were flammable. Moreover, the flames that the fire-black tortoises spat out were not ordinary wildfire, but a kind of mysterious fire that had been modified by spiritual power. Being burned by the mysterious fire, the armor demons had no way to survive. However, the number of fire-black tortoises was limited, and the armor demons were very ferocious. They charged forward fearlessly, attacking the black tortoises with axes and spears. Bang, bang, bang. Although the shells of the black tortoises were hard, they were not invincible. Soon, some black tortoises were injured. Among the armor demons, Lei Chong, who was wearing golden armor, appeared again. The blood-red Grandmaster Devil Force surrounded his warhammer. With one strike, a fire-black tortoise died. Little Red. In the 8 formation diagram, a staff member of the Divine Temple screamed. After communicating with the beast, he could feel the pain and fear of the fire-black tortoise when it died. This feeling was no different from his own death. The Longdan army camp is going to be defeated. Zhen Yifun's eyes shot out a ray of light. What should we do now? Lin Muyu said, retreat. Everyone retreat. The Longdan army camp will stay and hold up the rear. But, Qin Yin gritted her teeth, and golden ice crystals revolved around her palm. I will stay. With my strength, I can also help the Longdan army camp. Luo Exen, protect Grandpa and the Divine Marquis and retreat with the army. Luo Exen cupped her fists. Lin Muyu did not say anything else. If Qin Yin wanted to stay, then so be it. She might not be required to fight in the next battle anyway. At this time, the 8 formation diagram formed by the soldiers of the Longdan army camp was on the verge of collapse. After an entire night, the soldiers in the 8 formation diagram had suffered heavy casualties. At least half of the 45,000 soldiers had died. If they continued to fight, the entire army would be annihilated. Fortunately, the demons had also suffered heavy losses. Tonight, the 8 formation diagram had killed at least 30,000 armor demons. In addition to the 20,000 to 30,000 Wing Tribe people, the losses of the Longdan army camp were worth it. Wei Chou stood on the platform and looked at Lin Muyu, who was on the hill in the distance. Lin Muyu was also looking at him. She raised her arm and pointed towards the north. Immediately, Wei Chou became excited. Beat the drums and withdraw the formation. Everyone, get on your horses and enter the valley in the north. Lin Muyu also lifted her sword and mounted her horse. Qin Yen, protect His Highness. Just watch the battle from here. I will go down and add some fuel to the fire. Yes, big brother. Chapter 594. More than 20,000 soldiers of the Longdan battalion mounted their horses one after another, leaving a few hundred to bring up the rear, while the rest all rushed into the valley. On the hillside, Lin Muyu rode treading snow and rushed down like lightning. Her speed was extremely fast as she waved her long sword from a distance. Whoosh! Under the control of the sword-controlling technique, the star's sword rampaged and minced 3 armor demons in front of her into pieces. Go! As the commander, Lin Muyu personally covered the retreat of the soldiers. Facing the attack of dozens of armor demons, she waved her iron fist and dark force surged. She shouted and blasted out a chaotic lumen of all lives. With the current strength of Lin Muyu, the chaotic lumen of all lives was extremely powerful. A group of armor demons were easily peeled off their shells and died miserably. Lin Muyu. Lei Chong's roar came from afar. Lei Chong really hated this human commander. Lin Muyu made him taste the humiliation of failure. If he didn't kill Lin Muyu, Lei Chong would have no foothold as the commander of the demon clan. Chase them. We must kill them all. Lin Muyu's people are already an arrow at the end of its flight. Lei Chong roared. The high-level demon advisor grabbed Lei Chong's arm hurriedly and said, Marshal, don't be impulsive. Have you forgotten Marshal Qianfeng's words? Don't chase a cornered enemy. Lin Muyu is full of tricks. She won't withdraw the formation for no reason. You'd better wait for Marshal Qianfeng's order. Wait my ass. Lei Chong roared angrily. Qianfeng must be afraid that I'll steal the credit. Damn, I'm going to annihilate Lin Muyu's Longdan army camp this time. I'll take Lin Muyu's head back and show Qianfeng my ability. Everyone charge and annihilate the Longdan army camp. The eyes of those armored demons turned red as they lost their senses after being driven mad. Plus Lei Chong, the irrational commander-in-chief, all the armored demons instantly poured into the unknown valley and chased after Lin Muyu's remaining soldiers. Amidst the messy sounds of horse hooves, Lin Muyu spurred her warhorse to slowly retreat to the back of the formation. She would use the chaotic lumen of the common to take care of the armor demons that were charging at the front. The chaotic lumen of the common consumed less battle energy. Furthermore, with her twin martial souls absorbing the surrounding spiritual energy, she could use the chaotic lumen of the common every 5 minutes to ensure that her battle energy was abundant. Therefore, Lin Muyu was not stingy with this area of effect martial skill. Outside the valley, the armor demon legion rushed over. Under the light of the morning sun, everything was black. Wei Chou couldn't help but snicker. I've fallen into their trap. Order everyone to leave quickly. Try to minimize casualties. I don't know whether Situ Sin is ready or not. Don't worry, Your Excellency. Don't worry about General Senior. Good. Lei Chong's advisor, Feng Xiuye, was a 5-star demon sect expert and also one of Qianfeng's capable generals. Feng Xiuye was a distant relative of Demon Emperor Feng Yuan. Because of his high cultivation base and meticulous mind, he was put in an important position. Before leaving, Qianfeng had repeatedly warned him to stabilize Lei Chong, the reckless commander-in-chief. However, at this moment, it seemed that he couldn't stabilize Lei Chong at all. Looking at the surrounding terrain, Feng Xiuye kept observing. The valley was very spacious. It was almost 5 miles wide. It was almost impossible to attack with fire in such a long valley. It was impossible for humans to ambush them with arrow boxes and ballistas. Almost all the armor demons under Lei Chong's command were equipped with battle shields. Therefore, the lethality of the ballistas and arrow boxes was very limited. Even though the white diamond arrows could penetrate heavy armors, they were too precious for humans to afford. At this moment, Feng Xiuye began to be sure. War was originally a gamble. Perhaps Lei Chong's recklessness had won the gamble this time. This was a great opportunity to annihilate the Longdan army camp. The mighty armor demon legion poured into the valley. They didn't chase after Su Miyun and Luo Xian's remnant troops. Instead, they chose to chase after the Longdan army camp. It showed how much the demon clan hated the Longdan army camp. Kill them all. Don't let any of them go. Lei Chong laughed loudly. He smashed the soldiers of the Longdan army camp into pieces one by one with his warhammer. The blood splashed on his face and armor. He didn't wipe it off, which made him look even more ferocious. Damn it. Lin Muyu looked back at Lei Chong from afar and said, "This bastard has killed many humans. Today is the best opportunity to kill him. We can't let Lei Chong go back alive no matter what." Wei Chou smiled and said, "Don't worry, madam. Have we passed the minefield? We're almost there." Lin Muyu raised her head and looked at the mountains on both sides. She could vaguely see the sunlight reflected by the magic crystal cannons. She smiled and said, "It seems that Situ Sen and Situ Shui are ready." Wei Chou frowned and observed the terrain. He suddenly pointed forward and said, "Madam, the white grassland in front is the safe zone. We're going to turn around and fight the enemy." "Okay." Lin Muyu suddenly pulled out her long sword and shouted, "Turn around and use the heavenly book." The group of people who brought up the rear were basically all military officers. One after another, They turned their horses around and raised the tool embryos in their hands. Dozens of tool embryos were raised at the same time. All of them were fire spirit books and earth spirit books. Swish, 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 swish. Heavenly flames descended from the sky, burning all the pursuing devils to death. At the same time, Sidu Sen's and Sidu Shui's troops who were lying in ambush on both sides of the mountain range also made their move. Situ Sen lifted the straw covering his head and said in a low voice, "Fire the cannons." Dong dong dong. The war drums rumbled. This was the signal for the Longdan army camp to counterattack. In an instant, the 100 magic crystal cannons on both sides of the mountain were fired. Tongues of fire spewed out from both sides of the mountain. Bang bang bang. Purple lightning fell from the sky, and mushroom clouds soared into the sky. The explosions of the magic crystal cannons produced lightning, flames, and fierce impact. For a moment, the whole valley seemed to be blooming. The armor demons on both sides of the mountain were torn into pieces by the explosions of the magic crystal cannons. They were panicking like wild beasts that were being hunted. "It's over." Feng Xiuye's face was pale. He said, "We've been tricked. What kind of weapon is that? It's so powerful. Damn Lin Muyu. What should we do?" Lei Chong roared, "Fight them to the death." Feng Xiuye hurried to stop him. He said, "The range of their weapons is very short. It's less than 1,000 meters. Order everyone to gather at the center of the valley. We'll retreat slowly." But although Lei Chong was rash, he wouldn't force it even if he knew that he had been tricked. However, at this moment, the explosions of the magic crystal cannons on both sides of the valley caused lightning to wreak havoc on the ground. The mountain rocks were burned red. Suddenly, the soil under the ground began to swell. With a bang, a purple mushroom cloud soared into the sky. Hundreds of armor demons were torn into pieces. They didn't even have the chance to scream. There were more underground. At this moment, Feng Xiuye's heart was like dead ashes. He understood everything. This was a grave that Lin Muyu had prepared for the demons. The reason was simple. The explosion of the magic crystal cannons could produce lightning and high temperature. Qin Xiling had tested it repeatedly. Within 50 meters of the explosion of a magic crystal cannon, another magic crystal cannon could be detonated. Therefore, Lin Muyu had ordered Wei Chou to bury almost all the magic crystal cannons evenly in the valley. There must be a magic crystal cannon every 50 meters in the valley. Boom, boom, boom. It was like purgatory. The explosions created a carpet effect of destruction. The invincible armor demons were so helpless in this disaster. They fled in panic and were then blown into pieces. On the hillside, Qin Yin, Qin Yen, and the rest were also stunned. Everyone knew that Lin Muyu was researching a new weapon. However, no one had expected that the weapon he was researching would have such destructive power. The cannons on both sides of the valley were unceasing. The demons couldn't advance or retreat. If they advanced, there was the army led by Lin Muyu and Wei Chou with the white drill arrows. If they retreated, the valley had already been cut off by the 20,000 elite soldiers led by Fengxi and Su Jiantao. This time, Lin Muyu had used the entire Longdan army camp. His appetite was just that big. He wanted to destroy the entire Lei Chong army with the strength of a human army. Lei Chong's recklessness had led to his own failure. Nearly 130,000 armor demons had followed him into the valley, but in less than half an hour, they were all wiped out. Charred corpses of armor demons and high-level demons were everywhere. The smell of burnt flesh filled the air. In the sky, a group of winged tribe people saw the scene in the valley. They were all so scared that they shed tears. Apart from crying and fear, what else could they say? This was a weapon that they couldn't imagine. Kill. We must kill our way out. Lei Chong raised his warhammer and led dozens of armor demons towards the east of the mountain range. That was where the demons came from. As long as they could charge through this mountain, they would be able to return to the demon territory. On the mountain range, Sidu Shui looked at Lei Chong's battered and exhausted appearance with her clear eyes. She said calmly, "Order the magic crystal cannons to adjust their accuracy and aim at Lei Chong. Lord said that we must kill Lei Chong. Blast him to death." The the magic crystal cannons turned around and aimed at Lei Chong. When the cooldown was almost over, 3 magic crystal cannons fired at the same time. Bang! A mushroom cloud exploded. Lei Chong let out a miserable howl. His entire body was blown away by the fierce impact of the magic crystal cannons. He fell dozens of meters away like a withered leaf. The armor demons that followed him were all blown to pieces. Lei Chong's arm was injured, and the armor on his body was peeling off. Blood kept flowing from his mouth. Woo-woo, he was like a wounded beast. Looking at Sidu Shui on the mountain range, he roared, "You can't kill me." As soon as he finished speaking, another magic crystal cannon burst into a dazzling flame under his feet. Boom! Lei Chong's body was lifted up again. The earth energy on the surface of his body was blown to pieces, and the flesh on his chest was burnt to the point that his bones could almost be seen. However, he still stood up with the support of his warhammer. His head was burnt bald, and his face was full of malevolence. He roared, "You despicable people! You only know how to scheme." Sidu Shui slowly raised her arm, and the magic crystal cannon shot out again. Bang! Lei Chong's arm that was holding the warhammer flew into the sky together with it. Chapter 595. Tell Situ Shui to stop the bombardment. Lin Muyu suddenly said, "Yes." Although Wei Chou was somewhat puzzled, he still waved the flag and ordered Situ Shui to stop the bombardment. After nearly an hour of bombardment, there were no more armored demons left in the valley. Lei Chong was an exception. Holding her star sword, Lin Muyu spurred her snow-treading horse towards Lei Chong's direction. When the smoke dispersed, Lin Muyu saw Lei Chong standing in the wilderness awkwardly, surrounded by terrifying craters. Apart from that, there were broken body parts of the armor demons everywhere. A burnt smell filled Lin Muyu's nose. Lin Muyu! Lei Chong's golden armor had been melted and stuck to his body, making him look like he was cast. He stood trembling in the smoke and roared, "Are you satisfied now? My army is gone, all gone. Are you finally satisfied now? You demon, you killing god." Lin Muyu didn't say anything. She rode forward and gently pressed the stellar sword on Lei Chong's shoulder. "Kneel down. In your dreams. Kneel down." Lin Muyu roared. The Holy King domain covered the sky and the earth. The stellar sword trembled slightly. The rank 6 divine seal was quietly enhancing Lin Muyu's coercion ability. Lei Chong was seriously injured, so how could he resist? He knelt in front of Lin Muyu, but his scarlet eyes were full of resentment and unwillingness. Lei Chong looked at her fiercely and said, "If you kill me, the divine race will still trample the human territory. Just wait and see, Qianfeng will definitely avenge me, ha." Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. "Do you still remember that time in Winterfrost City when you cut off Lord Du Hai's head in order to cover my retreat? I will never forget that scene. I have cut off countless heads in my life. I don't know which one you are talking about." "It doesn't matter. You'll end up the same way soon anyway." Lin Muyu did not wait for Lei Chong to speak again. Her sword flashed past, and with a kacha, Lei Chong's gigantic head flew up into the sky. Lin Muyu quickly pulled out her sword and stabbed his head into the sword, raising it up high. On both sides of the mountain range, the human army cheered. Almost everyone felt like they had just survived a disaster. Wiping out Lei Chong's entire army should be an unprecedented victory for humans and the Longdan army camp, right? Before long, Qin Yin, Qin Yen, Citizen, Sidu Shui, and the rest all came to the valley one after another. Qin Yen cupped his fists and said with a smile, "Congratulations to Big Brother for establishing such an unparalleled miraculous merit." Situ Shui said, "Milord is indeed smart. Hehe, Lei Chong, this boorish fellow, still fell for it in the end." However, Lin Muyu wasn't too happy. The victory at the Longdan army camp was too difficult to come by. Not only did they lose close to 30,000 troops, they had also used up almost all of their magic crystal cannons. What was worse was that the demon race wasn't completely wiped out. They still had a very strong military force in the Zonglin Valley area. Military intelligence. Lin Muyu held Qin Yin's small hand and said to the people behind her, Fengshi cupped his fists and said, "We seem to have only wiped out a large portion of the Lei Chong army in this battle. They still have about 30,000 armor demons coming as reinforcements. They will arrive in about an hour. Milord, should we ambush them again and wipe them out too? 30,000 people?" Lin Muyu couldn't help but feel a chill in her heart. She said, "No, let's retreat. Our cannons are about to be used up. Our arrows are exhausted and our weapons are severely damaged. If we fight another 30,000 armor demons, even if we can wipe them out, we will have to pay the price of the entire Longdan army camp. Pass down my order, everyone retreat." Situsen said, "Milord, the magic crystal cannons are too heavy. It took us 2 days to move them from the flat ground to the mountain. If we carry them down, I'm afraid it will be too late." Lin Muyu gritted her teeth and said, "Block the barrels of the magic crystal cannons and detonate them. Don't leave any for the demon race or the Iha country. Just take all the magic crystal cannons." Wei Cho was stunned and said with distress, "Commander, 100 magic crystal cannons. Are we just going to give them up?" "No, it's too late. Blow them all up." "Yes. Retreat." With a wave of the flag, the Longdan army camp retreated from the valley. They left in such a hurry that they didn't even have time to bury their companions' corpses. But that was the way of war. Small-hearted kindness would only bring greater losses or even death. At this time, the news that the valiant dragon army had annihilated the Thunderchong army in the Nameless Valley had not yet spread. The only news that reached the Iha country was that the Empire's army had suffered a crushing defeat and the demon race had also suffered a great loss. Lin Muyu was setting up the 8-formation maze on the path of retreat to deal with the Thunderchong army. Sword Garrett. Qin Yi, clad in a golden dragon robe, stood majestically on the Sword Garrett's stronghold. He looked at the misty Zonglin Valley in the distance. His eyes flickered with a profound light. "What's the latest military intelligence?" Jiao cupped his fists excitedly and said, "Qin Yin has lost. Su Long's army was annihilated and Su Long committed suicide. More than 70% of the Godmight battalion was killed and 50% of the Steelblade army was injured or killed. It is said that the demon race even set fire to their provisions. Currently, the Empire's army has completely retreated from the Zonglin Valley. Lin Muyu fought against the Thunderchong army with only tens of thousands of soldiers and suffered a great loss. I estimate that the Empire's army has lost more than half of the 300,000 soldiers in the Zonglin Valley. There are only 120,000 soldiers left." "You mean Qin Yin only has 100,000 soldiers with her?" "That's right." "Then," Qin Yi squinted and smiled, "how are the demon race's losses?" Jiao said, "Both sides lost about 1 against 4. The Empire lost 200,000 soldiers and the demon race lost about 50,000. However, the 8-formation maze that Lin Muyu set up is said to be very powerful. It has already caused the Thunderchong army to lose tens of thousands of soldiers. And according to the information that our spies sent back, the demon race only sent a total of 150,000 soldiers into the Zonglin Valley. Most of them have already died." Qin Yi touched the cold battlement and said, "Qian Feng is cunning and cannot be careless. Where is he now?" "I don't know." Ji Yao smiled slightly and said, "But I will congratulate the commander." "Why do you congratulate?" "We have just received a letter. The human army that the demon race is building has already crossed the Cloud Ridge and is taking advantage of the situation to attack Tianshu Province and Yunzhong Province. If there are no accidents, Tianshu Province and Yunzhong Province are empty of soldiers and will soon change hands. But now, Qian Feng is most likely not in the Zonglin Valley anymore. He is commanding the attack on Yunzhong Province and Tianshu Province." "What?" Qin Yi's body trembled. "The demon race is attacking Yunzhong Province?" "This Su Muyun, that old fox's nest." "That's right." Ji Yao smiled and said, "Yunzhong Province and Tianshu Province are the provinces where the Empire's population is concentrated. They provide a lot of soldiers. Qian Feng is not a fool. Occupying these 2 provinces means a lot to him. If it wasn't for these 2 provinces being too tempting, Why would Qianfeng come to our sword pavilion personally to discuss the matter of dividing the empire's territory? Qin Yi took a deep breath. How many people does the Lei Chong army have? Less than 100,000. Can Lin Muyu block Lei Chong's attack? Obviously not. The demon race's armored demon army is invincible in the field. Even Marshal Long's iron chain formation is not a match for Lei Chong, not to mention a mere Lin Muyu. Commander, we cannot hesitate anymore. The opportunity is fleeting. If we wait any longer, Lei Chong will destroy Lin Muyu's army. By then, it will be too late for us to say anything. All right. Qin Yi heavily punched the battlement and turned to the group of generals and said, Ji Yao, listen to my order. You will be the frontline marshal and lead 200,000 soldiers out of the sword pavilion. Set up 10,000 arrow boxes and ambush the Lei Chong army from the rear. Qin Huan, listen to my order. You will lead 100,000 soldiers out of the sword pavilion and take a detour through the Qinling Mountains to attack Lin Muyu's rear. Tomorrow at noon, we will attack together. Yes. Qin Huan raised his head and said, Father, we are going to destroy Lin Muyu, capture Qin Yin, and kill Lei Chong. Qin Yi's eyes were filled with an unquestionable look. Indeed, if they did not seize this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, the Iha kingdom would never be able to show off their power as the ruler of the continent. After all, Qin Yi was very clear about the empire's strength. Once Qin Yin was given enough time to organize all the feudal vassals, even 2 Iha kingdoms would not be a match for the empire. Southwest of the Zonglin Valley, in the middle of the Qinling Mountains, there was a valley with birds chirping and flowers fragrant. It was already spring. The Turtle Valley was a valley embedded in the Qinling Mountains. It was surrounded by mountains and it was spring all year round. At this moment, the sound of hooves and training could be heard from the Turtle Valley. There was also an endless stream of food being transported into the valley. Battle flags fluttered in the wind. Hidden in the Turtle Valley were the remaining 50,000 soldiers of Xiang Yu's army. On the mountain peak, Xiang Yu held the bloodthirsty spear and looked into the distance. His face was full of anxiety. Military report. Military report is here. A messenger shouted joyfully from afar. What military report? Xiang Yu's body trembled as he went forward and asked joyfully. The messenger replied, The sword pavilion has sent out their troops. I heard that the sword pavilion has sent out 300,000 soldiers for this morning's incident. The Iha kingdom has almost turned out all their troops in the Lingnan province. That's great. Xiang Yu clenched his fists, his face filled with ecstasy. It's time to make a great contribution. Brothers, eat and drink to your heart's content. Let's attack at night. Yes. In the sword pavilion, the last few thousand-man battalions in the Lingnan province had already galloped out of the sword pavilion and entered a fertile field. Qin Yi watched the army leave, his heart filled with anticipation and worry at the same time. However, he did not know that in the dense forest to the northeast of the sword pavilion, countless armor demons were silently lying in the weeds. All of them were gripping their weapons tightly. As for the commander-in-chief, Qianfeng, his eyes were filled with coldness as he looked into the distance. Whoosh whoosh, a winged person flapped his wings and descended from the sky. With a dejected expression, he cried, Commander-in-chief, something bad has happened. Commander-in-chief Lei Chong's troops have been defeated in the valley. More than 100,000 soldiers have perished. Commander-in-chief Lei Chong has died in battle. What? Qianfeng trembled as he stood there, his face pale. How could this be? How could this be? You're tuning in to the Wandering Hero YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.